What's going on, Heartbreaker? You ever hear that? Ever hear that quote? History has a way of repeating itself. Well, Toronto Raptors played the Denver Nuggets as tough as possible tonight. They were physical. They beat them up. They did not have the favor of the whistle. They got an incredible game from Jakob, a really competent game from Davion Mitchell for the most part, a really great game from Gradey Dick, which included some incredible defense, a really good game from Ochai Baji, a good game from RJ Barrett. They got good contributions off the bench. Jonathan Mobile was a beast. And you had him. You had him once again. You had him in the same place. It's a fourth quarter. You're up by double digits. It should be game. And we'll look at the win probability. I'll guarantee you the Raptors were like 94%, 92% favored to win this game. And then it was turnover, bad shot, Jokic. And then it came down to one possession. And we're going to look at that possession in the film breakdown. If you're new around here, please hit like and subscribe. What you know is that we do a breakdown after every single game. We do the analysis, we do the film breakdown, then we do the call-in, then we do takeaways. So if you'd like to call in, link is in the description. If you're a sicko who is up at 12:30, this game started at 10 o'clock sharp, and it has ended. And there's a lot of talk about RJ Barrett and all that stuff. I think he was fine today. I think he had a lot of really good defensive effort. There were some mixed decision making things. We're gonna look at the good and bad of RJ. We're gonna talk about the good and bad of all of it. But once again, you come down to the same situation. You are down two. RJ Barrett has the basketball. This time, not in transition. It's this time Darko Rajakovic calls a timeout. It's a sideline out of bounds, and it results in something very similar. If RJ hits that shot, you're talking about him like he is the best player in franchise history. You're talking about him like he's Vince Carter. You're talking about him like he's the greatest, but he misses it, so you're going to trash him. I'm not going to trash him. I think he played really well. I think some of his playmaking was very good tonight. And two super chats back to back. Did you guys synchronize this? Recruiter dude saying Pirtle was incredible today. I completely agree. Matt 319, positive vibes only. Boucher is now vice prezi commander, though. I'm assuming that means tank commander. The homie Nick, fourth quarter, you're up by double digits. It should be game. It will be soon, Rob. Darko is going to coach this gritty young team up. The first step is learning how to win close games, is losing some. I completely agree. Winning is hard in the NBA, and the Toronto Raptors are finding that out in the worst way sometimes with some real heartbreakers. But in these heartbreakers, there is no shame. There is no shame. Yes, they were without Jamal Murray. Yes, they lost Aaron Gordon in the first quarter. Those things are true. Yes, the Denver Nuggets are absolutely ass outside of Nikola Jokic. But you're missing Scottie Barnes. You're missing Immanuel Quickley. You're on the road. You're missing Bruce Brown. You're still missing Kelly Olynyk. And might I add, the refs absolutely tilted this game. I don't care. I'm not an NBA player. I'm not going to get fined for saying this. I hope Darko Rajakovic burns, another $20,000 fine on this. But I will guarantee you, when we look at some of these plays tonight, you're going to see not one, not two, sometimes three fouls on the same goddamn play. How many times did they go to the line tonight? You think they earned all of those free throws? What RJ Barrett's going to the line, he's getting stripped. That final shot that RJ Barrett took over Russell Westbrook, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, looks like a foul to me. Looks like a foul. Russell Westbrook is not a good defender. So he just closed into his airspace. He contested that shot. And by the way, that shot that shot damn near went down. Kudos to RJ Barrett for taking that shot. Kudos for RJ Barrett for, holding down the fort while Scottie Barnes is gone and while Immanuel Quickley is gone. He is massively over leveraged in this role, but he is competing and he is doing a commendable job. He's doing a better job than Cade Cunningham is doing in this role. I'll tell you that. I had a hot take prior to the season that if the Orlando Magic swapped RJ Barrett for Paolo Banchero, I don't think they'd get that much worse. And I'm going to stick with that because RJ Barrett is playing out of his mind. So let's talk about this game. 3-pointer. You go for that three. Jakob is fouled out. You have played your guts out. And you don't really know what to do with Jokic. Honestly, he was able to do whatever he wanted to the Raptors. And you held him to 10 for 22. You held him to 28 points. This is about as good as it's going to get. But you were guarding him competently with Ochai Agbaji one-on-one, with Gradey Dick or RJ Barrett offering help. This is a recipe for Nikola Jokic drops 100 points. But kudos to Ochai Agbaji for having that positional versatility. Ochai Agbaji has what Lou Dort, to a lesser degree, what Lou Dort and Cason Wallace have, which is as a guard, he is able to guard up two positions. And that is so invaluable. So, okay. The Toronto Raptors worked their butts off today. They win the possession battle. Well, they win the shots battle largely because the Nuggets lived at the free throw line. The Raptors do hold the Denver Nuggets at 31% three-point shooting, but 49% from the field. Overall, offensive rebounds, relatively even. I think Jakob really competed with Nikola Jokic on that end, tried to keep him off the glass. The Raptors hit 28 assists very early in the third quarter. They only end up with 37, and that is the troubling part because the ball got a little bit stagnant for me in the fourth quarter. A lot of players held onto the ball a little bit longer than they should have, and you wonder, right? A little bit of lack of trust, something they're going to learn from. The Raptors led by as many as 14. Let's take a look at who did what because there were some really, really commendable box scores, but there were also some incredibly commendable highlights and game package we're going to look at. RJ Barrett, 5 for 21, 2 for 11 from 3, 16 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, 5 turnovers. This is about as bad a game as RJ Barrett has had since coming back, but I don't think it's as bad as it looks on the box score. I think, yes, a couple of those turnovers, which we're going to look at, were absolutely unforced. There was the one where he drove 1-on-3 and got blocked. I don't think that counts as a turnover, but it might as well have been a turnover. But, he made some really good reads with Yak in the dribble handoff, pick and roll stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought this is about as competent an offensive game that Davion Mitchell has had, and I thought he was a really, really big boost to their defensive energy and pickup point in the first quarter, second quarter. So I thought that Davion competed, and he was really good. Jakob, I mean, man, if they win this game, you give him the chain or you give Grady the chain. Ochai Agbaji, another really good game, man. This guy is flirting with like 45% three-point shooting, and he shoots 50% tonight. He shoots 50% from the field, 50% from the line, 16 points. And then you had Gradey Dick with just another great game all around, but it fell apart late. He had 3 turnovers in the fourth, and they were all like, just like, damn it. And you wonder, sometimes when you watch him running around, is this one of the best conditioned athletes in the NBA? How does he have energy? How does he have energy to run around 16 times around, one screen and another screen and another screen, and then still have the energy to run down the other court, run down the other side and block the shot? Like I don't know. I'm getting tired watching this guy play basketball. Maybe sometimes too much energy burned. You're playing in altitude. Your brain starts to get deprived of oxygen. You're really tired and you throw one away. But I thought Grady had some incredible reads out of like as almost like a lead initiator. Like a couple times he brought the ball up or ended up with the ball at the top to make a decision, and I thought he made really good decisions. A couple times he got trapped and then he found Jonathan Mobo. I thought that was like really good. It really flashes what this could become once he becomes a little bit sure of himself. I'll remind you, he's 20 years old. He's 20 years old. He's one of the best 20-year-old players on the planet. And honestly, every game I watch him play right now, I'm like seeing something new. Today, I saw the real potential for a competent defender. Not a great defender. I'm not saying he's Scottie Barnes and Herb Jones and those guys, but a really, really competent team defender. Christian Brown, light, you know? And man, if you like Kansas basketball, you like this game because damn, Christian Brown, Ochai Agbaji, and Gradey Dick all balled out. Off the bench, the Raptors didn't get a lot of offense, but I think they got a lot of impact. Bruno Fernando played 3 minutes. He did not come back. Okay. Thankfully, they were +6 in the 3 minutes he played by some divine miracle. Chris Boucher, I hated this game from Chris Boucher. I really did. I don't care what you tell me. I don't like it. Last game, brilliant. Gave him all the flowers. Went on Twitter, said he deserved the game ball, that he deserved the chain. This was not a good Chris Boucher game for me. I think he made a lot of errors. I think there were a couple errors defensively. There were a lot of he just stalls ball movement. Like he is a catalyst for ball stopping. The ball's humming, 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 and then it gets to Chris, and then he has to take 2 seconds to think, and then the whole defense resets. It fucks everything up. So if he's not finishing a play, he can't create the play. And that's really sad because you see what he provides defensively at times. And man, you just wonder maybe, because we're seeing where I saw a competent Davion Mitchell game. Yeah, there were some errors. There were a couple air balls. Holy shit. When we look at the film breakdown, you won't believe it. But, is he showing me, hey, look, 2 weeks ago I was saying this guy's gonna be out of the NBA next year. Right now I'm saying I'm seeing flashes of a guy who deserves a roster spot. That's progress. Hallelujah. Love it. Okay. From the Denver Nuggets side, they got 3 minutes from Aaron Gordon before he checked out of the game. Michael Porter had 19. Jokic had 28. Russell Westbrook, like after I talked so much shit about Russell Westbrook today, and you're going to see the clip because it's freaking hilarious. He has the best game of the season, 21, 6, and 6. Of course, we make him look like an all-star. And Christian Brown had a really competent game, really good in transition, 17 points. And then off the bench, Peyton Watson, a non-offensive player, hits one of the biggest threes of the game, goes to the line, 7 for 9, 16 points. And Julian Strother jumping over the Raptors bench, 13 points. They got help from the other guys, for the most part. I think they got. Welcome back, Rue. I hope you will. Freedom is a must. Are we quoting who I think we're quoting right now? Lock who? Are we quoting the same rap song? Okay. Welcome back, Rue. All right, cool. I had to change of heart on you, man. I had to change of heart. Rue almost had to be sent. Yeah. Yeah, I had to change of heart because Mel was in the chat. I think someone was in the chat saying Rue was a day one. And I was like, you know what? Yes, that is true. Rue was a day one. Don't need to be blocking people, but please be respectful of don't rage bait people, man. That's all I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna kindly request you, please don't rage bait people. We know you love RJ Barrett. We think, I think you've co-signed a couple of takes that Scottie's in RJ's way, whatever. That's cool. Nobody's hating RJ here, but please don't go on your, don't try to prove the agenda. It's not the right place for it. I promise. All right. Okay, cool. Overall, we gotta look at this. We gotta look at this film breakdown, man, because there was a lot of great basketball play tonight. I cannot tell you how fun this game was. And if you're one of those people that's gonna wake up tomorrow and be like, well, I had work. Fuck your job, man. No, no. Job. Forget the job. Go on unemployment. Watch this team play basketball. No, I promise. I'm not giving you career advice, bro. But I am telling you that this was This was a very good. This was a very fun game to watch, man. I can't even tell you. It was so fun. Okay, first of all, let's get to what I said about Russell Westbrook today because it is downright funny. Hang on.
28.6%.
Can you guess what Fred VanVleet is shooting this year from the field?
28.6%.
Nope, 28.2%. It's
It was
even
close
worse.
enough. Yeah.
You were
Under
close.
30%.
But
Under 30%.
but but it's not all bad news for Fred because someone is doing worse than him. Do you know who that someone is?
Well,
Nah, we're not doing this.
In the NBA?
Got
NBA
you,
or what?
got you, got
We're
you.
not doing
in the
it.
NBA.
Oh, it's
not doing this.
it's
not
doing
Russ.
doing worse.
We are
5%
not
worse.
doing this.
How the hell did you do this? Next to Jokic, 23.2% from the field, 21.1%. Russell Westbrook started his own club, the 2020-60 Club.
This is crazy. This is crazy.
Oh, that's funny.
Can you guess what Fred VanVleet is shooting this year? I got to tell you, I walked into this game with a lot of confidence that Russell Westbrook was going to shit the bed. It didn't work out that way. Okay, let's start in the beginning. And we're going to go right to a Davion Mitchell charge. Okay, this is great defensive anticipation. And this is right around the time when Aaron Gordon left the game. So I wonder if that was it for him, but just really, really difficult to get position. And I'm going to say this once, and I'm only going to say this once. Okay? I'm only going to say this once. That was very Lowry-esque. Okay? That's it. That was a great Lowry-esque moment for Davion Mitchell. All right. Now Gradey is in contention for some people for MIP. Can we get him some all defensive votes as well? Look at this. Gradey doing some football stuff here. That's Jokic holding him. Can someone please tell me how the hell that's not a foul? He's holding him. Please call out every single foul as you see it in these clips, because I guarantee you're going to see a lot of fouls. But deflection, and it goes the other way, and the Raptors score in transition. All right. This was one of my favorite plays. It started with a shot from Gradey, which results in Jakob Poeltl. Great rebound. Clears out. Makes the pass to Jonathan Mobo. Jonathan Mobo cuts through here. He's going to pass it out to Jamal Shed. Jamal Shed is going to get a quick paint touch, and he's going to fling it back out to Gradey. Watch this. Oh, beautiful pass. And Gradey, unlike Chris Boucher, is not going to take 2 seconds to gather his thoughts and write his memoir. He is going to pass it right over to Jacoby Walter for his first NBA 3, if I'm not mistaken. I hope it is his first NBA 3. Is it his first NBA 3? He missed the other ones, right? Great shot. At least it was his first NBA 3 tonight. I can't remember off top of my head, but that was just a great play. I loved it. And the headline, teamwork makes the dream work. Man, you needed every person. Okay. Now look at this. You wonder how RJ Barrett gets 9 assists? Look at how simple this is. Jokic and Westbrook are both terrible defenders. Michael Porter Jr. is a terrible defender, which we're going to see later with Ochai Agbaji. But look at this. Boom. So simple. So simple. Basketball can be so simple. Beautiful. Love it. Just according to Daryl, the Denver broadcast likened, according to Daryl, the Denver Nuggets broadcast was glazing Jakob Poeltl so hard, probably because they haven't seen a good backup center in their life. They were glazing him so hard they compared him to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar today. So that you can take that to the bank and smoke it. Okay, that's awesome. All right, take a look at this. This is 3 great plays by Jonathan Mobo in the span of 10 seconds. Watch this. First of all, verticality. So stops that. Second, strips it away from DeAndre Jordan, who is possibly the worst center in the NBA right now, not named Bruno Fernando. And here, look at this. Maps the court. Everything is mapped out right now. Okay? Watch this. Paint touch. Find the shooter. not going to make that stupid pass to Chris Boucher. And that is an open 3 for Jamison Battle. Watch this again. That's 1 decision, 2 decision, technically 3 decisions if you count running in transition and pushing the advantage. And here, 22 gets sucked in. And unfortunately, and hey, if he passes this early, if he passes this 1 second earlier, that's not an open 3. Jack saying amount of defenders he pulled in, damn. Absolutely. Jonathan Mobo is a really smart basketball player. And that is why you should love him, because he's doing this as a rookie. And if you're wondering, hey, Rob, did the Raptors play 3 rookies again tonight? Yeah, they did.
You have to dream the dream. You got to.
Okay, my caption on this is don't ever talk shit about WNBA basketball again. This is Davion Mitchell missing a point-blank layup, followed by DeAndre Jordan almost traveling, passing it to Russell Westbrook, and then Russell Westbrook, the biggest flopper in possibly league history, respect to the Euros, throwing the ball into the 10th row. You got to believe. If this happened in a WNBA game, be for real. Y'all would be trolling it forever. Respect the WNBA, man. Diana Taurasi don't do shit like this. All right, moving on. Okay. Watch the fouls. Okay. Watch carefully. We're gonna really, really hone in. Okay, foul number 1. Ochai Agbaji. 22 is grabbing him. Clearly. He's not falling by himself. He's got his arm wrapped. Okay. That's 1 foul. Okay. Foul number 2. Michael Porter Jr. is holding Jacoby Walter. That is the 2nd foul. You are not allowed to impede the offensive player's process. Foul number 3. Watch this. Now, Grady's going to take this shot. Believe it or not, he's going to make this shot, but watch Christian Braun right after the shot, and I will freeze it on the frame. He bumped him. He bumped him. That's 3 fouls. That's 3 fouls in less than 8 seconds. How the hell does that not get called? Actually, wait a second. Was it 8 seconds? No. 19 on the clock. 18, 17, 16. Okay. That's 3 fouls in 3 seconds. Holy crap. Are we kidding here? Wow. That's nuts. Rue saying Westbrook fouled RJ twice. Well, we will look at that play and we will look at many other plays to see what happened. Denver has absolutely no answers for Gradey Dick, and they didn't. They really didn't. I mean, in the first half, he was unconscious, right? He had 21. He hit his 21st point in the early 3rd quarter before they called a timeout. And again, I compared him to Drazen Petrovic. A lot of people said, you're gassing. Yo, this is Drazen Petrovic right here. Like, this is 100% pure Drazen Petrovic. Like, how do you even stop this? Jacoby, great screen, clears Julian Strawther off of him. And then Bruno Fernando slips it. Boom. That's it. That's all you need. Now imagine Scottie Barnes and Jakob doing the same thing. Oh my God. Grady is going to get so open. All right. This is Davion Mitchell was kind of loafing in the paint. Then he kicks it out to Jacoby Walter with 7 seconds to go. Jacoby begins to initiate, realizes this is not AAU, and gets stuck. Okay. This is with Bruno Fernando on the court, which is just, tough. Okay. Here's Jacoby Walter with 3.8 seconds. And watch Gradey Dick. Now, Grady is so smart that even when he doesn't have the basketball, even though he's probably very tired, he is still going to do the right thing. And the right thing right now is to cut. And he loses Julian Strawther. And Grady is just going to floater this up. That is beautiful. Watch this. Just watch Grady the entire time. Just watch. The second Jacoby picks up his dribble, right? Grady senses, I might need to cut into space. And that's what he does. He sort of fakes out and then just kind of buzz lines to the basket. And Jokic is just a terrible defender. And that's all I'm going to say. Nikola Jokic, not a good defender. Love Nikola Jokic, best player in the NBA, terrible defender. Okay, Gradey Dick never stops moving. Look at this recovery, man. Okay, this is offense to defense. We talk about offense to defense. This is Grady going up against Peyton Watson. Peyton Watson, really good defender. Peyton's going to leak out. So he's got a massive head start on Grady. Just watch this. Jokic is going to find him. Just watch Gradey. Watch Gradey. First of all, just great, just deterrence from Davion Mitchell, which allows Gradey to get that garbage out of here. Okay, that was just beautiful. I can't do the Jack Armstrong shit, but man, I wish I had a soundbite. Get that garbage out of here. Okay. Oh, this got me hype. This got me so hype. This got me so hype. This was incredible. Loved it. I could not stop watching this because this is the kind of thing that you do defensively. You know, when you like just great. Okay. I had an issue with this play. Some people thought I'm stretching it a little bit. Okay. This is RJ, head up in transition. Now I think this should be a pass to Ochai. Right here. Okay. I think this should be a pass to Ochai. Some people can disagree. I think Ochai is way too fast. I don't think Jokic is going to get back. I don't think any of these defenders have a chance. And I think this window to pass to Ochai's got his hands up. I think this should be a pass to Ochai for RJ Barrett. He's even got the ball in his left hand, and that's his dominant hand. He should make this pass. But he doesn't. Instead, he makes this pass to Davion. Now, in fairness, he has generated a wide open three. The analytics people will love this. So, cool. You live with it. Okay? And you pray that Davion Mitchell can hit an open three, which he doesn't. Okay? So, me personally, I'll take the layup for Ochai Agbaji over a three for Davion Mitchell with the way he's been shooting. But that's just me. That's nitpicking. All right. Gradey Dick for his 21st point. Again, the Dražen Petrovic stuff. And I don't think that it is worth saying. I don't think I'm saying it enough. How much Jakob Poeltl is doing to unlock Gradey Dick and RJ Barrett. I don't think it can be stated enough how great a screener he is and how open these guys are getting on some of these screens. It is incredible. Watch this. He absolutely wipes out Christian Brown. Jokic does not recover well, just kind of pokes at the ball lazily. And this is why, teams can really attack the Denver Nuggets defensively without Aaron Gordon. And again, you didn't have Jamal Murray tonight. I actually think that might have helped the Denver Nuggets to not have Jamal Murray because he's a really terrible defender too. Okay, let's watch this. Okay, I think I remember this play. This is going to be a great play. Okay, watch this. So this is RJ Barrett doing something really cool defensively. He picks the ball away, bounces off Michael Porter's hands, and he's going downhill. And this is going to be one of the best passes I've seen in RJ Barrett's career. Watch this. Oh, I love this pass to Davion Mitchell. And I was just praying Davion didn't mess this up by missing the layup, and he didn't. Credit to him. That was crazy. Look at this, man. Boom. Loved it. That was awesome. All right. Okay. Honestly, the refs are embarrassing. You cannot reward flopping like this. Jakob Poeltl was seen after this play mouthing, "I didn't even touch him." So we are going to see if that is true. Watch this. Now, bro, what the hell was that? That is Russell Westbrook diving and getting a call. And Jakob Poeltl is looking at him like, what? Jak is Austrian. He doesn't lie. This is craziness. And the refs just awarded this because this dude flopped. And what? Because he has MVPs? Because he has MVPs, he just gets to flop around and commit fouls? Look at this. Look at this bullshit. He didn't even touch him. He didn't even touch him. Did Davion hit him? Nope. Nobody touched him. This was so frustrating to watch in real time. So frustrating. Literally not a person touched him. Okay. This is going to be, in my opinion, a bit of questionable decision-making from RJ Barrett. Again, there were a lot of questionable decisions. You don't rack up this many turnovers without some questionable decisions. Now, here you have Julian Strawther shading over. Okay. You have Christian Brown in front of you. Do you attack this? You could say, yeah, sure. But once you get that second defender, I think there is a pass here. But you don't see the help. Julian Strawther's a good shot blocker on the weak side. He comes over, he blocks it. You lose 2 points. I'm mixed on that one. I'm okay with him attacking because he's really good at that stuff. But I sometimes just wish that he would do a little bit less. And this is one of those plays that really, really broke the Raptors back. They were just hanging on. It was 93-88. And this pass here is a really unforced error. There's no pressure on this pass. Nothing. It's just I thought he was there. He wasn't there. And this is just going to go out of bounds. And that's just a really tough one. And Gradey had like 3 of these as well. So, you kind of live with it with rookies and second-year players, but RJ's like a vet at this point. He needs to know better for sure. And this is a play where Jakobi and Chris Boucher just miscommunicate. It's literally the next play where Jakobi gets a little confused here, fights over the screen. Once he recovers, that's on Chris Boucher to roll back. I'm sorry. He got over the screen. So Chris Boucher has to know that his man is rolling to the basket. Instead, Chris Boucher is forcing Jakobi to tag the roller, and boom. Okay? So this, in my opinion, and again, not a coach. I don't know their scheme. But the way I'm reading this, unless somebody called switch, I don't know. I would say that's on Boucher. What do y'all think? Would you say that was on Boucher to switch back? Once Jakobi recovers, unless the switch is called, I don't see why that has to. I don't see why that's on Jakobi to get back to that. Okay. Now, I am kind of sick and tired of Russell Westbrook. First of all, I don't like the guy to begin with. But right here, is this a play on the basketball? He hits him in the head. And I'm sorry, I'm a little bit, just remembering what he did with Scottie. It's not really cool. But you have no chance to block this, and you knock, the player is airborne. Jamal Shed jumps really high on these. So you're hitting a player who is technically airborne from behind, and you're not making contact at all with the basketball. And you don't have a chance to block this. No matter how much you think you're living your glory days of, this is not 2014. You cannot block this. For the second game in a row, we got a Gradey to Ochai, Kansas connection. And this is such an awesome pass because he puts it right there. There's no stretch. There's nothing. It's just a perfect pass. Look at how perfect that is. It's beautiful. I know we got some super chats. Let me respond to them real quick, and then we're gonna get to it. John Lem, here we have a super chat. Thank you very much. Gradey Dick better than Tyler Hero at the moment? No, but he will be better than Tyler Hero. I'm positive. Okay. All right. Boom. Boom goes the dynamite. Okay. Everything is still good for the Raptors right now, right? You're leading 111, 109. 3 minutes to go. You're on the brink of, potentially losing it. Now, this possession is tough. This is a really tough possession. It's going to start with an RJ3. At 11 seconds left, they generate an RJ3, and he went 2 for 11 tonight, and it's not going to touch rim. It's a really bad miss. For a guy who came into this game shooting 46% from 3, his percentages are going to dip hard after this game. Gradey Dick tips it out. Good effort. Ochai, great effort. Ochai is going to go up. He loses the basketball going up. Jonathan Mobo gets the ball. Man, the Raptors are quick to the basketball. Don't tell me they didn't want this game. They desperately wanted this game. Now, Jonathan Mobo miscalculates. I guarantee you that he thought that the shot clock reset. I can almost bet you. And right now he's going to notice the clock didn't reset and he's going to panic and the passing lane is out. And Michael Porter Jr. is apparently playing great defense, even though he's technically holding him. And he's going to pass out to Davion Mitchell, who is not going to touch rim. How? How? I want to know. Okay, hang on. Freeze it. With 1 second to go. Now, I need to see Russell Westbrook's legs on this one. Hang on. Okay, you got 1 second here. 0.7. I'm sorry. You got to make this. And Russ did kick out. You are right, but I don't think he connected. But if you're Davion Mitchell, you're an NBA player. There's no one within 15 feet of you. You have to connect with the rim, man. This is just. Did they have a timeout left at this point? I believe they did. You could have burned a timeout instead of hoisting that bullshit. I don't know. It's a lot of coulda, woulda, shoulda with the benefit of hindsight. Maybe in the moment it didn't feel obvious, but it's crazy to have 2 back-to-back air balls with the game here, like right in the balance. And trust me, the Denver Nuggets did not do a lot to try to win this game. Now here's the final play. This is the final play. And this is tough. And you feel for RJ because he took a lot of slander for missing that first one. And I don't think that it was warranted. And I'm not sure this one's going to be warranted either. But you do wonder if you're a coach with so many defensive liabilities, Jokic, Russ, Porter, with so many defensive liabilities, why go for the one-on-one ISO? Maroon Prince saying, can you call this a play though? No, you can't. It's a sure thing though. It's a sure thing because you're putting the ball in your best player's hands who's on the court and you're getting a shot for him. Now, if you're telling him one-on-one against Russell Westbrook, you're telling me one-on-one against Russell Westbrook, RJ Barrett, I'll take my chances. RJ Barrett, like Russell Westbrook cannot guard RJ Barrett. Okay? He cannot guard RJ Barrett. In a million years, I don't think he can guard RJ Barrett. Russell Westbrook's a highly, highly overrated defender. However, with the referees swallowing their whistle tonight, okay, I believe you have to create something better than this. If you're RJ Barrett, you have to be able to create something better than this. Now, let's see if he makes contact because this is a really tough shot. Really tough shot. With the clock going down, this is a really tough shot. And, you know, Grady's open right now, but it's way too late to pass. Let me see if he had the pass to him at some point. Let's see. Okay, let's make this bigger. Let's just play this out. I mean, three seconds. 2.4, 2 seconds, 1.7. You know what? Let's do something. Let's watch it in the slowest pace possible. Let's watch it at 25%. Okay. So here we go. Now the clock is ticking really slowly. What could he have done here? So there's Gradey trying to lose Christian Brown. Jamison Battle? No. This sort of like, he's not getting enough separation. That's probably the issue here. But does he hit him? That's the question I really want to know. Does he hit him? Because there is like, hand is part of the basketball in the NBA and in basketball. If you're, you know, if he makes contact with this is a very good contest. Now, does he make contact with his hand after? Sure, but the refs will allow that. You can sort of like clap the guy's hands. You just can't make contact with the wrist. You can make contact with the hand on the follow through. 7. Oh, great defense by Russell Westbrook. We don't need your objectivity here, okay? Your honest truth serum. Fuck. I don't. We need biased homerism, which is Russell Westbrook fouled RJ Barrett and the league is rigged, okay? Like, oh my God. Ziggsaw Puzzle saying it's Ron's sock account. L Ron. Oh my God. I'm gonna call Ron tomorrow. I'm gonna be on the panel tomorrow. I'm gonna call him L Ron Hubbard. All right. Okay. I don't think he gets fouled because if he did get fouled, I don't think this goes. I mean, this is like friggin' in, out. It touched every part of the rim and rimmed out. You know, like this is about as close as a shot can ever go to going in. And you know what? This is an interesting thing. Probably just gonna say this. Probably should have put a little bit more arc on it. Just get a little bit more arc on this. This was it a kind of like a flat shot? Hang on, let's just see the arc on this. Da, 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 da. Hmm. No, it feels okay. That feels like a normal shot. I mean, just, the fading away and all that stuff. I don't know. You could tell he wanted it, man. Salty Monkey saying forearm and body. How's that not a foul? I think you have to look at a different angle, honestly. And unfortunately, I don't have the different angle here, but I would love to see the last 2-minute report on this because the last 2-minute report is hopefully going to show a foul. But I mean, at that point, what does it even matter? RJ Barrett would have gone to the line for 3. And with his track record at the line this season, he's probably making 2 most. He's not making 3. So, okay. Does he make contact with the body or does RJ flop? I don't know. It's really tough to tell from that angle, guys. Sorry. I would love to give you the biased homerism and just say that was a clear foul, but that's really difficult. Also, an RJ highlight that I think is really just worth celebrating on a night like this. Peyton Watson, I have often called one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. This is RJ giving him a little shake and bake, a little bit of hot sauce, a little bit of and one mixtape, a little bit of city game. Maybe he picked that up at Rucker Park when he was in New York. Liked it. Like, love it. That was great. That was a couple plays before. Okay, takeaways. Yes, we can talk about takeaways. If you'd like to call in, link is in the description. Please feel free to call in. We can definitely talk. I realize this is a bit of a late live, so it's 1:10 right now. So we'll try to wrap this up in about 35 minutes to 40 minutes, unless we get like a really deep, great conversation going. We don't need to dissect the hell out of this one, but I do think there was a lot of good stuff tonight. So main takeaways. Honestly, Gradey. Gradey was just so good. I cannot tell you enough about how good Gradey Dick was tonight. Overall, I think he was like your best player by a large margin. Him and RJ Barrett, him and Jakob were just absolutely incredible tonight, and they competed very hard. I saw things from Gradey that I didn't really know he had, like some of his self creation stuff. Like, I mean, we've been talking about it for a while on this channel. We're like, man, once Gradey becomes a better pick and roll ball handler, la 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 la, it's gonna be good. And man, it really, like, it does look good, man. Some of his playmaking stuff, like, we'll definitely have to do a film breakdown on this at some point with a little bit more time. But some of the assists tonight, I thought it was just cool, man. Like, he had 5 assists. Honestly, it felt like he had more. He had 2 blocks, 3 steals. So he had 5 stocks. 5 stocks tonight. And I feel like at some point I read that he had 4 steals. Did they take one away from him? Or did they count one of his steals as a block? Anyway, this is the type of production you typically get from a Scottie Barnes. 3 steals, 2 blocks. OG Anunoby's Scottie Barnes, right? And Miguel Toe is back. God damn it. 5 for 21 and 2 for 11. Okay, cool. Well, I'll tell you what. RJ Barrett had really, really efficient games, and he had one inefficient game. That happens. That's okay. That That doesn't mean very much. It's altitude. He's the prioritization of the entire defense. He's still creating a lot of really good looks for his teammates. He still had 9 assists. He had 10 assists. He had a double-double. 16 points, 10 assists. Okay? So yeah, I thought overall, like, good floor game. He's sort of operating as a point forward out there. That's a new role for him, man. And like, credit to him, and good for him for taking the shot. Whoever's going to take that last shot, I mean, you got to have guts, right? You got to have guts, and if you're going to miss it, it's going to be Hove saying Gradey the next Bird. He's nothing like Larry Bird, other than the pigmentation. Oak Tree saying, appreciate you, bro. You've got me analyzing the game play by play, and I'm enjoying it even more. Man, that makes me so happy. It makes me so happy. You're one of our OGs as well. So I'm really happy to hear that the game is more it's slowing down for all of us, right? Scott plays 2K saying he's more like Reggie Miller than Larry. Absolutely. Hove saying Gradey was a steal. Wow. Shizo Ramblings. Appropriate name. I'm not falling for RJ's fake numbers. What's fake, man? No one is saying he's a 46% 3-point shooter. We knew that number was going to come down to earth, but if he can stay north of 38, that's a huge value. Huge value. No one's saying he's going to average 10 assists per game, but if he can average 5 assists per game, also huge value. You know what I mean? Which is why you need to find him for the last shot. Okay. All right. Let me just pull up the call-in link here. Invite guests to talk. But yes, overall, like, oh my God. Why do you guys do this? Summer low. RJ gonna average 5 turnovers a game. Well, is he averaging 5 turnovers a game? Where'd you get that from? All right. StreamYard. There's the link. Call in. Ziggsaw Puzzle. What's going on, man?
Hey Rob, how are you doing?
I'm all right.
It's been a good game. What did I think? I think it's like, wow, the future's bright, basically. Grady's doing all kinds of stuff now. It's not just like scoring, I think. Passing, cutting, obviously. What do you call it? He's getting stops, he's staying vertical. He's not losing guys. I don't know if the Denver's offense is just bad. That's why Gradey just looks better. It could be a bit of that, I think.
Well, he's looked good for 4 straight games now.
That's true as well. And Davion was surprisingly nice today. Like, he was finding good cutters. He was finding cutters. He was also like pushing the pace, I think. Because Jokic has a similar play style, right? So it's actually easier to I mean, like, I'm not comparing Davion to Jokic. I'm saying like Jokic also pushes the pace after a stop, right?
Oh my God. In this same live, we've compared Davion Mitchell to Kyle Lowry and Nikola Jokic.
I'm sorry. You get what I mean, though. He pushes.
Am I in hell right now? Am I dreaming? What? Oh God.
Any last thoughts? But
Jokic, man.
No, I'm not.
He's making
comparing.
He's making the simplest pass in the world. Andrew's saying Davion the next MJ. Yo, it's too late for this type of humor, guys. You can't be joking like this.
SNL's not over yet.
Oh Lord. Oh my God. Okay.
But
What'd you think of Chris Boucher today?
Get him off the floor. That's it. It's just like he disrupts the offense. It's the typical Chris Boucher game. He'll have one good game. This is the bad game. So it's the makeup for every time he has a good game.
Yeah, I mean, you just need consistency from him. You can't have your veterans making rookie mistakes out there, and he's making a lot of rookie mistakes. John Lem using $5 to spam troll the chat, saying Davion Mitchell next Chauncey Billups. Davion Mitchell next Chauncey Billups.
The coach?
Bro, the player. When did you start watching basketball?
No, I'm kidding. I was just joking. It wasn't just.
Okay. Boucher was diapers tonight, man. Yeah. Johnny A saying he's nothing like Billups. That is true. Davion Mitchell is a football player. All right. Look, no hating on Davion tonight. He played really well. I thought the defense was very competent, and I didn't see him getting lost on screens as much tonight, so that was pretty cool.
Ox is
John
gonna
Lang,
chill you out
calm,
tomorrow.
yeah. John Lem saying, calm down on Chris Boucher. He's one of the young core and is still developing.
Isn't he
Is he a
32?
growing boy? Does he need his milk? He's 31 years old, bro.
He's like, yeah, exactly. What are you talking about?
He's a 7-year pro. Like, what are we doing here? Is he's in North saying Boucher's processing speed is like dial-up. Yeah, it is. I wish I had a dial-up, tone for like the man. We got a
Oh yeah,
soundboard here, and I
that's a
need
throwback. That's a throwback.
Lord. Yeah, it really is. And I mean, you think you hope that that he can learn. There is a lot of neuroscience that says that the brain is a little bit more elastic when you're younger. So it's probably easier for a guy like Ochai at 23, 24 to learn stuff than someone who's 30, 31. But hell, I've learned new skills at 30. Hopefully Chris Boucher can do so as well. But is he getting better? That's the question, because it's like this offense requires so much correct decision making. Everything's moving on a string. So sometimes you will see Jacoby Walter out of place. Sometimes you will see Jameson Battle kind of looking around like, wait, was I supposed to switch that? Or what's going on here? Right. So in a weird way, the MIG defense that I'm deciding to call it actually simplifies defense so much. Guard your man, and that's it. If there's a switch, call it. But there's nothing really complicated going on defensively at this point. It's just it's almost like you've simplified defense to just play one-on-one, guard your guy. And of course, that's never going to work, right? I think Jokic shredded his
Jokic
matchup.
found with the open guy every time in the fourth quarter. That is like,
Yes,
but that's normal. That's Jokic things.
yeah. Tetrahedron saying, to be fair, the brain never loses neuroplasticity entirely. Good book on this is The Brain That Changes Itself by Norman Deutsch. I have read elements of that book, and think I've read like a couple of chapters of it. I can definitely tell you that it does not lose neuroplasticity entirely, but neuroplasticity declines with age. And every year that you age past 24, 25, it does become a little bit harder to rewire things. So I don't know if you want to debate that, you can definitely call in and debate it. But yeah, I did a lot of research into neuroscience in 2018 to 2022, and that was sort of the result of what I found.
Isn't that also why like it's hard to like learn new stuff as like I don't know, past 30 or something?
Well, it's 25. Like it
25.
gets harder and harder. So it's almost like getting pregnant is harder after 25, 30, 35. There's like incremental decline, getting pregnant. There's also stuff like that. Chances of dying go up. There's stuff. So I just John Lang saying Chris Boucher, his processing power is equivalent to a Samsung Galaxy phone. 2012. Bro, why can't we leave it at dial-up? Dial-up was the perfect image of that. Okay.
Yeah,
Ziggsaw Puzzle, yeah. Any final thoughts, man?
What was I gonna say? Fuck. Oh yeah, I think it was not. I tuned in the panel earlier today, so I saw like Mars like crushing over Fred VanVleet. So it was actually like it's nice
Cathartic?
to see because cathartic because of what happened last year, and now Mars is doing the exact same stuff that we were going through last 2 years ago.
Right. Like it is history repeating itself. Not only do we have RJ Barrett missing a 3-point shot against the Denver Nuggets down 2 to win the game, but we also have an entire fan base collectively losing their minds about Fred VanVleet gunning for a contract as his young core struggles. It's the same goddamn thing.
We're just rewriting the script. We're not even rewriting the script. We're just copy pasting it at this point.
Exactly. It is old. But you know what? I issued a warning to I don't know. Hold on. Let me pull
the
it
Houston
up.
front office, right? I remember that.
Oh yeah. I did. I'm gonna y'all think so my presence on the panel is largely a large propaganda tool for the Toronto Raptors. I like to shout out Jonathan Mobo every half an hour like clockwork. I like to shout out Scottie Barnes as much as humanly possible. I shout out Jamal Shed. I totally ripped Davion Mitchell screen navigation today, so maybe I have a little bit of egg on my face because he played great today. But let us check this out. Hold on, I'm gonna pull this up. Anyways, any final thoughts, man?
I think so what was thinking that you know how we're missing Barnes and IQ. I feel like it's a hidden blessing in disguise because we're forced to play like we're forced to be in the deep waters. You know, no like Mig offensively. Our Mig offensively is Scottie Barnes or IQ, you could say. Defensively, Scottie's partially anchor, but it's mostly Jakob. So it's actually really helpful that Scottie doesn't have to take over these games because he's obviously can't physically play, right? So
Right.
our guys are like, growing together, like
Right.
building
I
defensive
agree. I agree with
communications
that.
together.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, man. Thanks a lot for
All
calling
right,
in.
yeah.
Appreciate you. All right. Okay, let's pull this up. Okay, this is what I said to the panel less than 3 weeks ago. Listen to this.
And he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. Hang on. He is also on a team right now, and he's not done making money. Trust me, this guy's entire life is, making the bag, and power to him for that. Not pocket. I'm not pocket watching.
Same.
But what I'm saying is, you're on a team where you're the starting point guard. You're an undersized 30, 31-year-old, and they just drafted back-to-back point guards, top 3 in the draft.
Right.
They're coming up behind you. How do you think that could be a distraction? Because that's the only thing I could see derailing the Rocket season, which is a little bit of discontent between the placeholders and the future. Because I've seen this happen before many times.
Absolutely.
Fred's saying all the right things, though.
Yeah,
And
he
the-
always
and
says
the
all
ac-
the right
and
things.
the-
Don't
but the
worry,
actions
it
are
doesn't work out
speaking-
that way.
But the actions are speaking that way too, in terms of like what you see what's happening.
I will
He's taking
issue
Reed
I will
Shepherd under
issue
his
a
wing.
wait a
warning
minute.
right now to the Houston Rockets front office.
Mhm.
Hear me and hear me well. Deal with this guy's contract right now. Do not let it dangle. And he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. Hang on.
Bar for bar. Called it again. Dude, not only did I call all of Fred Van, we all called it. We all called Fred VanVleet's bullshit 21, 22, 23. We called it until he left. Not only did we release a reel the day before he signed with Houston of him in a Houston Rockets jersey, if y'all remember that one. But now we're calling his downfall in Houston as well. Fred VanVleet has been awful in Houston. He's been compromised defensively. He's been terrible offensively. I really thought he'd learned, but when I thought about it, do people change? Very few people change. All right, let's bring on 95er. What's up, 95er?
Yo, what's up, Rob? How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. They say in psychology specifically that personality is not malleable. No matter how much you want to change the manifestation, you are what you are personality-wise. And that's Fred in a nutshell, huh?
Sure. Yeah. I've heard that. I've heard that a lot. I don't know how I feel about it though.
It's a tough one, right? Because essentially you're saying the traits of a person, like the openness, agreeableness, extroversion, conscientiousness, and neuroticism are all fixed traits in a human being. How you choose to manifest that, though, through your growth as a person, through the wisdom you obtain, that's up to you. But the actual fundamental composition of a person is fixed.
I've been told that a person's nature, that their nature is fixed, right?
Yes,
I don't
that's
know
one
about
sense.
agreeableness. I mean, how much has my agreeableness changed from the age of 4 till now? I've never really been very agreeable. Maybe that's part of it.
'Cause
Conscientiousness probably has changed quite a bit, though. I don't know. It's something I'll have to chew on. Yeah, it's a worthwhile thing. And when do you feel that this is rigid?
Well, basically, if you look at it from even infancy, like they've done studies on like 6 months old, 12 months old, and the traces of those traits are already there. So, like, for example, if you look like a baby and how they respond to a new toy, that can already indicate at that age how those traits manifest. So, they've done longitudinal studies over years looking at basically the change in those traits, and it's minimal in most people. And that's why they argue that that's essentially a fixed characteristic. It's just more of like how that manifests. So, like neuroticism, for example, can manifest in anxiety, or it can turn you into someone who's meticulous. It can be two different things, even though it's the same trait and hasn't modified. Or if you're conscientious, let's say, you can become a hard worker, or you can become a psychopath, who's basically taking out your aggression on everybody and not focused. So, Again, how it manifests is different in different stages of life with different hormonal changes, but fundamentally your approach to life is fixed. And what's crazy is those traits they're talking about, they come from a dictionary study of all places. They took basically all the words to describe human behavior and broke them down into 5 metagroups, and those are the 5 traits. So it's just interesting.
That is very interesting. I'll have to revisit this. I would like to think about this more deeply before having like a knee-jerk reaction to like this is why I think what I think. But
Yeah.
yeah. So what'd you think of the game tonight?
Oh man, I was very impressed with Grady, to be honest with you. He was one of those guys where I didn't like him too much initially when he got drafted. I wasn't a huge fan of his game. Even last season, I didn't think he showed a
Had you
lot of the things
watched
we're seeing
had
now.
you watched a lot of his game before or was it a lot of highlight stuff?
I was just highlights in general, but even look at the highlights, like there was just limitations I thought to his athleticism, even in college, or
Hmm.
even just the way he read the game that was different tonight. Like tonight was something I hadn't seen in him before. To have that kind of versatility both in his defensive and offensive game, and just seeing it at a level that I didn't think he had in him. So I was very impressed with that. But what I'd say is like I don't know how that plays into a lineup with much more defined roles. I think the lack of definition of roles right now, with the lack of players, makes him much more valuable than he would be normally. Because within a fixed system where you have IQ at the point, you got Scottie fixed at small forward slash point forward, you got Jakob there. He's kind of locked into more of a role player position. And those traits I don't think show as much. So I'm wondering where he fits long term. Like, what do you think, Rob?
Well, I think what's interesting is that you have a lot of offensively challenged players on this team that are taking shots right now, right? So if the equation is how do you find shots for Emmanuel, how do you find touches and possessions for Immanuel Quickley and Scottie Barnes? Well, I would say, well, I guess Jakob goes into more role player. Davion Mitchell goes more into role player, and then the process of the offense can remain somewhat similar. In fact, a lot of the stuff that Grady is running right now would just run so much better with better players, right?
Mm,
Like the gaps that he's attacking, he's had some of the hardest shots. I cannot tell you how hard his shots are. Nothing's easy. Like very few
yeah.
things are easy. Like maybe he'll get like one transition three where the defender is sagging way off or miscommunicates a switch, or he'll get Yak screening his guy off and the guy just dies on the screen and he gets an open shot. But the vast majority of his shots are contested. Teams are not leaving him open at all. So right
Yeah.
now he's being guarded like a 21 point per game scorer who doesn't have a lot of help around him. What do you do? And you need a certain type of defender to guard him is another thing that I would say,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So with Scottie and Immanuel quickly being very selfless players and Jakob continuing to be selfless, maybe the volume of his attempts won't be nearly as high, but I don't think it should decline to the point where he's like a 12 point per game guy. I think he can go down to like 15 to 17. And I think that's perfectly fine. He doesn't need to be a 25 point per game scorer for this team. But the fact that he has the threat to be a 25 point per game scorer means that if you have foul trouble, I just love the idea. Like I love that you noticed the fact that you hadn't seen this from him because I felt the same way watching it. Because there's all this talk about. I don't know if you watched my interview with Brian Macon. Did you
Hmm.
watch the
Yep.
one? Yeah. So you
Yep.
remember how he I think in the first interview we did he talked about watching Trey Young in EYBL and
Hmm.
and how that was the clearest vision of what Trey would be because that was like just him in his element, and then you could just project that forward and be like, okay, most guys, that's what it's going to look like if they keep working. Well, with Grady in high school, you saw a lot more of like the ball handling stuff where he's ball handling, decision making, and transition. That pass that he's made to Ochai back to back, I've seen that pass from him in high school. I just
Mm.
hadn't seen that pass from him in the NBA. So now
Right.
you're seeing some of that materialize because all those angles and all those gaps and some of the strength issues have come. I've seen him do a chase down block in high school. I've seen him, being active, pesky defensively. I've seen him look a lot more athletic in high school. And to anyone who thinks I'm joking, go Google Gradey Dick high school mixtapes. Just Google them. He has mixtapes. Like, I'm not kidding. This guy is so highly scouted. I think there's tapes of him going back to grade 8, and you can see sort of the progression of the game and sort of like how he adjusts to different roles. And I just think that he's so interesting because he is such a great fourth option. But he's
Mm.
shown me over the last couple of weeks that he can be a really good second option too. That's versatility. I'm
Yeah.
also seeing like defensive versatility where I know that if I put him right now in the Boston Celtics, he could hang. Like he can do the Sam Hauser role really well right now.
Yeah, easy, easy. My whole thing is though, I ask you, Rob, like, what's the ceiling for him? You know, because I'm looking at him right now. I'm like, it seems as if his athleticism caught up, right? Because if he played that well in high school, that means there was a differential of skill, obviously, probably height to some degree. But now, if he's catching up to the NBA game in terms of his ability to read the game, even his athleticism, the question becomes as developmental coach like Darko, who do you feed? Do you feed RJ touches? Do you feed Gradey touches? Because you're looking at a guy who I'd argue has more potential than RJ does long term, especially defensively. Like he could be something for this team. If him and Scottie can run, you got something special here, man. Those two guys.
It's not something that people want to hear right now. I know that. So I don't like so here's an interesting thing. We were talking earlier about people don't change and fundamental things about people don't change, and sort of like the core characteristics.
Mm.
One thing about me is I am like probably someone who rains on a lot of parades, you know? Like I don't let people have their moment, and it's something that I've had to learn from, that it's not a favorable characteristic and that I have to adjust it somehow. Like for instance, I'll be the person I'll be the person, let's say you have a friend who's nervous about turning 40 and they'll be like, I'm turning 39. And I'll be like, no, you're turning 40. Like, I can't even let it pass. I can't
Mm.
even, and people just look at you like, why are you such an asshole? So I'm not going to be the asshole who, in the midst of one of the best RJ runs, is going to be saying, I think Gradey Dick has more potential. But my take on this is solidified going back to last season.
Mm.
I think that if we're talking straight potential, it is Scottie, it is Gradey, and then there's like a chasm.
Yep.
And
Completely.
and maybe the next player up is Ulrich, to be completely frank with you. Maybe that is the like if we're talking just bare potential of
Yeah.
what that guy could be because of his raw potential.
Because I think most people don't understand the economics of basketball. They're like, you have to feel the team, you have to feel the stars, quote unquote. And those
Sure.
contracts for Quickly and RJ are to fill the gap for however long needed to get RJ and Scottie up to the point where they're marketable assets. Right now, people won't show if this is just Scottie and RJ, a bunch of G Leaguers. So you have to have those people like RJ, who is that Canadian kid, and Quickly, who's that point guard and
Hmm.
plays the prototype a bit that gets those casuals in the door. Because you're gonna have a tough couple seasons
Okay,
going forward.
so I'll bite on that. So here's I have two questions for you. Number one
Sure.
is, so you have Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Gradey Dick, Scottie Barnes, and a whole bunch of kids. Jakob Pertl. Yeah, I would put Jakob Pertl, Bruce Brown, and Kelly Olynyk almost, and Garrett Temple in their own bucket. I'd put Davion and Boucher in the trade fodder, don't really fit long term what we're doing bucket. I would put Jonathan Mobo and Jamal Shed and Jameson Battle in one bucket. Like there's like 5 different buckets.
Yep.
However, that core bucket, that four players that I mentioned, Gradey, Scottie, IQ, and RJ, you don't think that Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, and Gradey Dick will be the long-term core?
No, I don't think RJ or Quickly will be there in the long, long term. I'm talking like 5, 6 years.
Okay.
When Scotty's at his peak, when he's hitting almost 30, that's going to be probably Grady and maybe 2 more rookies at some point in time where people have kind of grown up within the system. I think RJ and IQ are probably
Could
stockings.
Jacoby be one of those players?
He'd have to show me a lot more than what he showed me, to be honest, to even begin to have that discussion. I just don't see it with him yet. I know the potential's there. I can see the skill set's there. But again, just like with Grady, he's got to catch up. That's what development is, right? To see them once they're in the flow of the game, once he's in his element here in the NBA. But he's nowhere near that right now. So I don't know.
I think
It'd
it's
be
just
interesting.
the physical development. Right now people
Yeah.
are panicking very hard on Zachary Ricochet and Reed
Mhm.
Shepherd, and they are struggling mightily. And I am just so positive that they'll be fine. Just as I was positive that Nisi would be fine. There's just certain players where you just get a feel for. I mean, and also it helps to have more data points than your competition. Like with Jacoby, I have a lot more data points than other people who are evaluating him. I've done a lot of my own independent research on him, a lot of contacts. So I have a good feeling for where he's going, and I have a really good feeling for how the Raptors feel about him. And a pairing of him and Gradey Dick feels like a very sensible pairing, right?
Yep.
So I personally think that the Raptors are really high on Immanuel Quickley. I'm open to being wrong about this, though. The reason I think they're really high on him is because it's just a really great compliment with Scottie if he pops defensively, and some of the progression that I've seen from him as a 3-level scorer. And if he can evolve even 35%, which I'm sure he will, because almost every single Darko's like the guard whisperer, like he just makes everyone like a much better playmaker. He made OG a better playmaker. He made Pascal a better playmaker. I think he's made RJ a considerably better playmaker. So I believe he'll have the similar impact through film study and repetitions with Immanuel Quickley. So if Immanuel Quickley becomes a really good lights out shooter, which he already is, and a 3-level scorer, which he's already showing potential of being, and a good defender, I know a lot of things have to click for him, but I think he might be one of those guys where it can click. I think the only downside with him is he's a little bit small, but
Yeah.
he makes up for it. He has a 6'9" wingspan, and I just think long term the pairing of him and Scottie just as personalities really works. They're very opposite, but they're very synergized. It's a really interesting like yin and yang between those two. So I really like their pairing, and it's going to be a friendship that's going to grow. I think, and it's going to make them both better players because I think they both complement some. They fill gaps for each other, and just from a game perspective, like we try when we were trying Vision 6-9. I got sucked up into it too. I'm like, wow, yeah, it's cool. An entire field of OG Ananobis. It doesn't work. Like it just doesn't
No.
work as a basketball concept. It doesn't work. You need different pieces that do different things. And I think Immanuel Quickley does things on the basketball court that nobody else on this team can do. For the record, I also think RJ Barrett does things that nobody else on this team can do. So the question then becomes, is like, what do you replace that with?
Right. Well, I mean, that's a pretty good question. But I think more importantly than that is the question of what's the identity of your team going forward. Because Scottie, as a player, isn't your typical, like Michael Jordan, LeBron type, where he's
Sure.
offensive first in that sense. So for most fans watching, especially like outside of our team, they look at that and say your team has no offensive identity in a sense because your top player cannot necessarily create one-on-one at the level of a Luka or Jokic or whoever it might be right now.
Hmm.
And so it's the question of then, okay, then what's your identity being built around? Is it around toughness? Is it around defense? Is it around versatility? I think when you answer that question, you get a better sense of what the fit is long term. For me personally, I don't see IQ's personality as being a championship personality. I see him as a great guy, really committed, really strong player, but there has to be a level of aggressiveness and assertiveness you see in a guy like Scottie. You're seeing more of in a guy like Gradey that I think comes out for people who are tough mentally and who can handle a playoff grind. And I think that's what you're looking for long term. Those guys and those personality traits you just can't teach.
What do you see in IQ that makes you think that he's not tough, or that his mentality is not tough? Because it's worth noting that he struggled immensely with the Knicks in the playoffs.
Well, that's what I'm thinking about specifically. That's where it stands in my mind. Like in Toronto, he seemed to have that kind of freedom to play the way he wanted to, and that gave him that kind of happy smile on his face, the dancing and all that stuff. To me, that's not a killer instinct that I saw when he was playing regular season with the Knicks. In the playoffs, he was awful, and then he comes to Toronto, he's kind of loose and more free in that sense. Whereas for me, if you told me
Mm.
right now I could have Suggs for him, I'm taking it instantly. You know what I mean? I want a guy like that on my team, despite the offensive
Even
limitations.
with the well, I mean, offense is coming a long way with
Yep.
Jalen Suggs. He's a lights out shooter. Defensively, obviously a huge upgrade. I think he's a better playmaker. I think the injury history does scare me though. I've come
Yep.
a really long way on Jalen Suggs. I genuinely can't stand people who have a very rigid or fixed perspective on prospects, especially because prospects are constantly changing and data
Hmm.
points are changing, and new things happen for players all the time. But I literally know people who are like, I hate this prospect, and then it's like 5 years later, the prospect is a completely different prospect. They're like, I still hate this prospect, and I'm like, can you evolve? Can you evolve a little bit? Like I talked a lot of shit about Jalen Suggs in his rookie season. I said that he was the worst player in the league and that he's not going to be an all star, etc. Scotty's better. Now I'm like absolutely happily willing to say, he has low level all star potential, and he's been great. And
Yes.
Franz has been great. And this
Yeah, but you
entire rookie class is really coming up. Like the 2021 rookie class has been doing great. Evan Mobley has been fantastic. Jalen Green is scoring buckets. Cam Thomas is scoring buckets. Cade Cunningham looked better this year. relative to how terrible he looked in his first 3 years. I think like there was progression last year. It's all trending up. So yeah, we're gonna see Scotty's draft class really start to ascend. But if he can continue to ascend with the same gap that he's had, he's gonna blossom into a superstar this year.
Yeah,
At
but I
which
think
point, you will need some pieces around him. I felt synergistically that Cam Johnson, like every time I watch Cam Johnson, I'm like, that's a perfect Scotty teammate. I watched Dayron Sharp. I think sometimes that too. Are there any players around the league that you think of and you're like, that's a great Scotty teammate?
well, I think Suggs is probably one of the best ones, given to what he's done to the culture in Orlando. Like
Mm,
to see that team really shift, like take him out of the lineup is what I'd say. Take him out and see how Paolo plays and how he progresses. I think that's been fundamental to have that kind of, I guess, emotional driver in the locker room. Usually it's a vet, which is surprising that you have a guy like this at such a young age taking that role for that team. But like, you need something that even with Vince, when seeing him retiring and seeing the way people respected Oakley and how that formed Vince in his most important years, you have to have something of that kind of personality on your roster, I think. I don't think Garrett's that person because you have to have, again, the respect of their role, their growth in the league, and the respect around the league that
mm.
helps with that too. So I think that's the most valuable piece for Scotty. I don't think
Like the
yeah,
enforcer?
not necessarily the enforcer, but just the maturity around that player, where they have a reputation, whether it is an enforcer or not. Like Oakley, I don't think his primary benefit was necessarily in just being an enforcer. People respected that man around the league, and he wouldn't let Vince quit. He wouldn't let him back down. He was there, like reinforcing the best parts of Vince, which is why you see Vince, as soon as he left to Jersey, he was just aggressive. He was fighting through every screen. He would do everything he had to do. He took that from, I believe, a guy like Oakley and the guys around him, like the D Browns, the Del Currys. Whether again vets or not isn't the issue. It's more of just that mindset, that attitude that I think that Grunwald and them brought in at that time. But with this roster, it's like, okay, you got a bunch of younger dudes, but what's the attitude of those younger guys? Do they have championship mentality? I think it's a question to ask. A guy like Fred, for example, had championship mentality, but toxically so, and it was helpful to get to the championship, but it wasn't helpful beyond that. Yeah, I mean, so you have to be really, really clever
Does
and
Jason
smart.
Tatum have championship mentality?
I would say so. Absolutely. I would say
Okay.
so. Even
Okay.
though, people hate on him all the time, I think his mindset is just a winner's mindset. He's going to keep shooting no matter what, come hell or high water. He's going to do his thing and he'll take the lumps with it. And I think that's very impressive to have that kind of mental toughness, to just know your
Mm.
role and do it.
I'm trying to think, like of players maybe that don't necessarily fit that very serious mold because the thing I'm hung up on is, when you said that Immanuel Quickley was skipping and maybe that I don't know if you're honing in on that as like, okay, that's why he's not a killer. And the cool thing
Yeah.
about Immanuel Quickley is like he will keep shooting. Like, he will keep
Yeah.
shooting, and that's something I've noticed with him is like, he will try new things. And this summer he did get better. I mean, he got that contract and he got better. And I think that that's a great thing. I think he's chasing something like basketball perfection. Like I think he's a he's more DeMar DeRozan than anything else. I,
Mm.
I I see elements of that, like where he's more just obsessed with the craft of how good can I get, you know? Chop wood,
Yeah.
carry water is something that he references every single, interview or every other interview. He's always talking about chop wood, carry water. I think he just has like a really great workman approach. And so, okay, maybe maybe though in a situation a couple of years from now, you decide couple playoff failures. Same thing happened with DeMar. You're like, okay, this is not going to work with this guy. We're too small, defensively compromised. He's making too much money. At which point he's a $32.5 million guy with 3 years left on his deal. And because he's such a pro and he's such a tactician, he's actually gotten better in every one of those
Mm.
years. Maybe it's not the right personality to win a championship. I'm not ready to write him off though. I really like him, but I'm open minded to hear your side on it, and I can understand why a Jalen Suggs and that personality that somewhat like almost nastier, get in your face, like not afraid to trash another team, that kind of stuff, like the Scotty stuff, like snarling
Yeah.
in Kevin Durant's face, ripping the ball away from LeBron James, laughing at KD, like these are legends, like who wow, okay, like that's crazy, and you're a rookie and he doesn't give
Yeah.
a shit. And I'm trying to think if there's someone else on this team that's like that.
Well, I think the reality is we just haven't seen IQ in those kind of circumstances with this team. He hasn't been there yet. Like they haven't had the kind of high leverage situations.
Sure.
yet. I mean, when he has, I thought he's been okay. I just off of memory alone, I remember a bunch of like just stupid shots at certain points last season. He has the stroke, but sometimes it was just the wrong timing, things like that. But like, I guess we have to watch and see how he fits in once he's back.
Yeah.
But
I
I don't,
mean,
I don't
there
know.
was something that RJ Barrett said after the Sacramento game where, and I have no idea because again, people say things on autopilot, almost like they're scripted to say it because they're saying it, you know. And I have no idea sometimes when people are being genuine or that's how they really feel or that's how they feel they're supposed to portray themselves. So it's really difficult to dissect how genuine someone is being in a moment. But he said something that was very interesting, which is after the Kings game. I think Kayla Gray asked him, "Are you like you don't look happy?" And he's like, "We should have closed this out in regulation." And that was very Kobe, you know.
Mm,
And again, sometimes people try to mimic until they find their own personality. And based on the earliest part of our conversation, I think that you would probably be able to talk more to that. But I think I've witnessed people do that. Like they will like use a placeholder personality and they'll start to sort of
mhm.
mimic words and quotes and characteristics of some of their idols. It's actually ironically something that Jason Tatum gets trashed for endlessly.
Yeah, it's true.
but but yeah, so I thought that was cool and the fact that he was willing to take the shot again was cool. Like I
Yep.
don't know
But
if
even
that's
then, did you buy it though? Like when you heard RJ say it, I heard it. I'm like, well, it's the right thing to say, but I don't know if he really meant it. Meant it. Not to be skeptical or anything. I
I
just
don't
didn't
know.
see.
I've tried to. I try not to psychoanalyze players that I've never met, and I've never met RJ Barrett.
Yeah.
And then I know two people that know him, but I don't know anything. Like I'm not overly close to those people, so I don't really have any insight into him. That being said, I can try to profile it as your dad is basically Canadian royalty. You grew up under a lot of like you grew up under a huge shadow. There's obviously you know a sort of rigid approach to workmanship, like almost like when he was drafted by the New York Knicks, you know, the reporter goes up to Rowan Barrett and says, tell us about your son," because RJ was crying. And he said, you know, "Who is New York getting?" And it's like, he's a guy who's gonna work. And you could see RJ like, you know, kind of nodding. And his father's almost like, "You're gonna work," you know what I mean?
Mm,
So
yeah.
there's almost that element of it where there's like even the earliest story of Masai Ujiri talking about it, and he's like, you know, when I first met RJ Barrett, it was Rowan Barrett who brought him up to me, and he's just like, meet Masai Ujiri, you know, and it's almost like a very proud father that is vicariously living out some sort of dream of NBA greatness or lineage. I don't know. It doesn't feel nearly as like carefree as Steph and Dell for
Yeah.
whatever it's worth. It's not like, "Oh, my son was bouncing a basketball and just became, like, obsessed with it," you know? It's like basketball is our family, our culture, you know? So you have no idea, like, maybe this is a scripted response, I have no idea. But that being said, the work is the work, and RJ Barrett has put in goddamn work. Like, he has been a
Yep.
fundamentally different player, and now that he's playing in Toronto, I wonder if just some of that alleviation of living up to the top 3 pick, living up to New York Knicks fans, living up to all that stuff, and overall, I think he's been great. Do I buy him as a franchise player or an all-star? Probably not.
No.
But I think he's been a really useful piece, and the thing that I was worried about with RJ initially when we traded for him was, are we gonna get stuck into another Pascal Siakam situation where the bucket make you know, the shot making is so nice and so appetizing, and because Scottie is not nearly as advanced in in that segment, are we gonna then watch RJ dribble the ball out of the air out of the basketball? He's not doing that though. That last play notwithstanding, for the most part, most of his decisions are very quick, and I do believe that it can work with Scotty.
Yeah. I
Maybe not
think
long
he's.
term, but short term, I think it can.
No, I think he's been excellent in these circumstances. But like you said, like under the pressure in New York, under the pressure of the third pick, he struggled. And he really struggled to the point where they're ready to get rid of him for free, essentially, Knicks fans. And so it's like, how do you look at that now as a Raptor fan and say, okay, well, you're playing right now with literally no pressure. Like Darko didn't care. I mean, obviously they wanted to win, but like realistically, we're rebuilding. Whether
Devil's
we win or
advocate,
lose, yeah,
is it possible that there's even more pressure? Your kid
no,
Canada. You don't think there's more pressure
nah,
playing in front of your That's interesting because a lot of GMs, you know, would swear that drafting a hometown kid sometimes adds way more pressure.
I don't think so. Given the way he responded in New York, it was the fans that got to him. I thought. I think the fan response, the team response, the crowd around him was the big difference. In Toronto, the crowd's been incredibly receptive to RJ. Like he's given all the latitude he wants. Even the team understands, and we understand as fans. He's not expected to win games right now necessarily. It'd be great if he did. Like these games against the Nuggets, both games. I'm like, yeah, if we win, we win. It's a great chance. Almost had it. I'm not going home and moping because we're supposed to be a playoff team. There's these expectations, these standards. So like again, like you're looking at guys right now who are training in the gym against a body bag. You're not seeing them in a fight necessarily. And
In
so
in fairness, like to push back on this a little bit,
sure,
New York
sure.
fans didn't always hate him. You know, they embraced him for a really long time, and he had a really good second season. And there was a
Mm,
lot of hype around RJ. He hit a game winner. There was that big dunk on Scottie Barnes, if you remember it. Like
I
there's some really, really high moments with RJ as well. And I've often prescribed to the theory that if you ever hate somebody, it's probably because you cared a lot about them at some point.
true.
And you know the and there's nothing that points to that more than how fans feel about Vince Carter versus Chris Bosh.
Hmm.
Like there's no strong emotions about Chris Bosh at this point for most of us. Most of us are just like, yeah, cool. It was a nice 7 years. Cool. Like that's not the part that evokes the strong emotions. Watching Vince Carter have his jersey retired, that was what evoked a strong emotion.
Mhm.
You know, and maybe that's what also that emotion burned the other way when they were burning his jersey. I never met anyone who burned their Bosch jersey. Most
No.
people just gave it to Goodwill. You know, it just it wasn't worth the lighter fluid. Is sort of how I would put it. So you know the hopes on Star J Maple Mamba, right? When you go
Yeah.
to New York, he also kind of plays a New York style game, right? The isolation score, the
Oh yeah.
and all that hype coming out of Duke, that's blue blood, coming out of Montverde, that's royalty, number one player in high school. That's hype, man. Like you go there, you're supposed to change the fortunes of New York Knicks fans. And by the way, this is one of the most jaded, bitter, hurt fan bases in NBA history because they've had to go through so much shit over the last 15, 18 years prior to getting him. You know, since the championship run, 8 seed going to the championship in 1999, the Knicks have had like a lot of mediocrity, if not just miserable. And so he walks into a very, very negative situation and is expected to elevate it out of nothing. And then he's not that player right away. And people get impatient. And I think in second year, he was flashing some potential of that. But when he regressed in third year, people were out on him. And I think
Yeah.
that's when it got toxic.
But
But
I think you hit the nail on the head though. Like that's what happens with fan bases, especially like the Knicks. They're waiting for their savior, and every single season it's the same thing. The new guy comes in, their top scorer, that's their guy. Even with Brunson now, I don't think Brunson's a guy long term for them, but they're latching onto him as best as they can. They're making him a top 15 player on ESPN, everything. Like they're taking this guy who I think is limited tremendously, and they're putting him at that level where he's like their superstar. That's Knicks fans, man. That's any franchise where you're waiting. Like the Raptor fans
which
before the
superstar
championship.
is not limited? Giannis is limited. Joel Embiid is limited. I mean, at least in theory, Embiid is limited by his body. Giannis is limited by his shot. Jokic is limited by his defense. Who's not limited?
Uh, you're right, absolutely right. I'll take that point back. But simply to say that more than other superstars, I would say I don't think Brunson's a top 10 in my opinion.
No, I
And
don't. I don't think so either. I was on record this offseason, and I'll probably take it back at this point. But I said, oh, if you put Tyrese Maxey or De'Aaron Fox in that situation, they'd probably do better. And now I'm like, maybe not. You know, watching Tyrese Maxey like really, really struggle to elevate a worse team and not have you know, I don't know. Maybe it's just a cold start to the season. You never know. Like players have cold streaks, hot streaks. By the end of the season, they all balance out. But it's really difficult when there's a 6 game, 7 game sample size and the team is losing, and you're just like, man, this guy's ass. Who knows, man? Maybe Gary Trent Jr. is about to go on a 25 point per game heater for like the next 2 weeks, and I have no idea. Anyways, man, this is a great conversation. I'm really happy you called in. Have you called in before?
don't think so. No,
No, you
I
haven't.
may
Okay,
call early
well,
on. I've been listening since day
well,
one, brother. Since day one, I've been listening to you,
that's
man.
awesome. We have talked to 3 people so far this year that are day ones or people who say they've been talking and, listening, and they've all been fantastic conversations, and this one is certainly up there in my
Appreciate it.
personal, call-in show, Hall of Fame. Like, I loved it. I loved every second of it. Thank you. Please call back anytime.
Absolutely,
Chat,
greatly appreciate it.
please give 95er a big W. It was a really good conversation. It was good back and forth. There was no screaming, there was no yelling, and we probably don't agree on a lot of things, but I really loved how eloquently you put across your points, and I'm thanks for doing that.
Anytime, Rob. And just to say, Rob, like, hey, listen, man, this generation needs someone like yourself. Like, the other options on the market are just not what they should be or at the level they could be in terms of realistic opinions on this team. I think that's where you stand out in that way. Yeah, you got your flaws, you got your ups and downs, you have your emotions. It's all good, man. But like, what you provide is a realistic opinion, a platform for fans. Your top competitors, so to speak, just don't have that. They don't have that kind of following. They don't have that kind of stick-to-itiveness. They don't have the ability to give what you give. So don't give up, man. Keep going. Stay strong, and much appreciated. Thank you for your
Thank you
time.
very much. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Anytime, brother. Peace.
Peace. Great conversation. I gotta say, like, I used to say we were the number one Raptors post game show, and I think we've had 7 games this year, and I have no idea how today's looking. But I don't think we're the number one post game show anymore because we've lost at least 3 times to another show that's new, and it's basically a pooling together of the 2 competitors, and they've pulled together into one show. And I'm not a zero sum thinker. So my view is as long as they're having a good show for their audience, I'm cool with it. But a lot of people are zero sum thinkers in my life. So they're just like, you got to be number one. You got to do something different. So in the end of the day, do I care that somebody else gets more views? I do not. Actually, I really don't. At the core of my essence of who I am, I don't care. What I care is that we are doing a good job. Good job breaking down the film. Good job of breaking down the game. Good job of having a call-in show. Good conversations, and it's unique. It's unique, and I agree with what 90 and 905er said, 95er said, which is that it is not there is no competition for this because it does not exist because it is ours. It's we, you, me, we all created this together. We created this community, you know? So it's not about slandering anybody else. People can do what they want to do, and there's a place for all of it. I love the fact that the Raptors have so many options for post game because Lord knows our media sometimes ain't it. So I love that there's independent content creators. And you know what? When I started out, I was beefing with a lot of the small ones. A lot of them. A lot of them, man. They were coming at me. They were coming at me. I was coming at them and all that stuff. And yo, they're gone. They've lost their entire viewership. They're just like they've just faded away. You see, they have there's a game, and then they don't do a post game, and they do a post game 4 days later, and it's just like it's not consistent, right? And then people check out on them, and they're not very insightful. To be completely fair, sorry, I'm not neurotypical, so I'm just going to say that very bluntly. They're not very insightful. They're not really offering anything, and so you see someone like Samson Folk on one side, and you're like, that guy's actually offering something that is unique. He is doing a serious X's and O's breakdown, a really good, deep analytical deep dive into stuff. And, people will find that useful because nobody else is doing that. Right. So again, you have to be consistent. As 95er said, you have to be relevant. You have to be good at what you do. And you have to be knowledgeable. Why else would people tune in? I swear sometimes you meet these Raptors podcasters, these other people, and, they think that because they have a channel that they are owed views. No, we got to earn every view. And this channel is going to continue to get better. It will get better, and these shows will continue to get better. So thank you all for bearing with me as I go through my ups and downs. Daryl, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me okay?
You sound great.
Hey, I actually plugged in a real microphone, so.
What? That's cool.
I know. Believe it or not, I'm actually a YouTube content creator. That's part of my job, but it's not anything. It's not. Yeah, it's education related. It's not sports related. So I make a lot of my own content for the school that I own.
Dude, we just got back to back good audio. I am in heaven right now. This is awesome. Yeah. Okay, talk to me.
So I could have actually every time that I've had audio difficulties, I could have just been doing this all along. So. Yeah.
Don't tell me that.
Sorry about that. I hope that doesn't get me. I hope that doesn't get me banned.
Any final thoughts, Daryl? Any final thoughts?
Man, final thoughts. Yeah, there's your tagline right there. Any final thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was listening to the the Nuggets broadcast side, and
Mhm.
that was always interesting. And they actually are the ones that mentioned that Gradey was. They said it actually incorrectly. They said Gradey was 4th in the NBA in distance traveled, and I just double checked it. He's 5th in total distance traveled this season, but he's 2nd in defensive distance traveled in the entire NBA this season.
Wow.
Yeah. So he is, I mean, no wonder he's gassed at the end of a game at high altitude, and he made a couple of turnovers, but it's like he may be one of like 3 people alive who could do what he does, you know.
His conditioning is absolutely mental. Like I
Yeah.
can't believe he does what he does. Like I'm genuine. I'm saying this for the second time this show. I'm exhausted watching him.
Yeah.
And
Well, people go ahead, finish
go
your
ahead.
thought. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that people, I mean, we've talked about this before. People judge athleticism based on how high you can jump. But as far as just all of the athletic tools goes, like this guy is such an elite athlete. Balance, coordination, timing, precision, all of this stuff is athletics. It's not just vert leap. And just the way he processes and his little shimmy that he does now. I didn't see that very much last season, but that little shoulder shimmy that he does to create that half second of space to get his shot off, that shot over kind of toward the baseline, you know, that's a tough shot, but he creates that for himself. So it's like he's got the mind for it. Obviously he has the stamina for it. Like this guy, he might be the best athlete on the team.
I don't know if he's the best athlete on the team, but I definitely do think he's the best endurance athlete on the team. In terms of, it's difficult because I would say the best athlete on this team is Scottie, personally, just because of the separation he's able to get, the bump, the shoulder, the strength, the hand
strength,
size,
yeah.
the just the strides that he can take.
Out of
right?
all the athletic sort of categories, though, is strength the only one that Scottie tops Gradey in?
He's got a bigger vert. He's got bigger hands. He's a bigger
Okay,
athlete.
sure.
He's got
That's true.
longer strides. He has, I think where Gradey, he's faster. You know, I guarantee you he beat the shit out of him in a sprint.
Yeah,
He
in
is
a race,
faster
that's
than
true.
him.
That's
So
true.
yeah, I mean, we've seen Scottie clear the entire court in 3 dribbles,
That's true.
right? That is some freakish athleticism. Not to mention wingspan, like not to mention, yeah. So like, I think with Scottie, it will come. Like the some of his skill work has to just catch up to his body, and his body is so weird. He's one of the weirdest bodies in the NBA. Pause. Basically, he is like all legs and arms and no torso. It
Yeah.
is like the strangest thing. The first time I saw him, I was like, what's wrong with him? You know? Like I didn't know what to make of him. When he was 16, 15 years old, he was still big. And it's just like, is this guy like he's like a 7-footer in a 6'7" guy's body. It's the weirdest shit, you know?
Yeah.
It's a very high center of gravity, makes like getting low kind of difficult, right? I don't think I've ever seen an NBA player with this physical frame. His metrics are absolutely insanity. Like I think he has 10.5-inch hands with 7'4" wingspan was the correct measurement when the Raptors did it. 7'4" wings. Like what the hell am I describing? I mean, we're talking about a guy who guarded centers as a rookie. Athleticism. This is an athletic freak, but it doesn't materialize the way that Vince Carter and Giannis Antetokounmpo does because it looks clunky sometimes. But Giannis looked clunky at times when he was younger too. So
He still looks clunky sometimes. Giannis trips over his own feet occasionally.
Yeah, absolutely. Ash saying Precious Achua says he is the best athlete. I think that's probably even fair. I thought Precious Achua was a generational athlete.
Nah, see, and that's what I was getting to. I don't think Precious Achua was a good athlete. I think that he was really good at like 3 athletic categories out of like 20.
Which ones?
So like obviously his burst, his quick burst, his coordination, just the smoothness of his movement. He was so graceful. Just watching him, you'd be like, man, this guy just moves so smoothly. And I guess like size, if you consider that, but I mean, well, size can also be argued as not related to athleticism. There's plenty of very big people that aren't athletic at all. But whatever, neither here nor there. Let's just say that it is. So, but besides that, what else was there?
I found him to be pretty balanced. I think he is an extremely good vertical athlete. I thought he had a really good vertical leap.
That's what I included in the burst sort of.
Okay, but I mean those are different things. So
True.
burst, like taking you from your first step to your gather, is different than your gather to your ascension up to a dunk. Similarly, I would say, I mean, some people keep comparing him and Jonathan Mobo, and they're completely different athletes. One is a 1 foot jumper, one's a 2 foot jumper. They're very different, right? But then I also measure the second jump. How quickly do you get up the second time, right? That has to be part of it. The wingspan. I mean, that's a physical trait, but positional size and switchability. I have seen Precious Achua with his lateral quickness, which is also a part of his athletic profile, which Gradey does not have anywhere close to his athletic potential as a switch athlete. Gradey cannot stay. I don't think Gradey will ever be able to stay with a Tyrese Maxey. I watched Precious Achua shut the shit out of Tyrese Maxey in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And nobody else could. No one else could stay with him. Scottie can't stay with Tyrese Maxey.
I think Precious is a below the waist athlete. Because he couldn't his hands sometimes were made of stone, they couldn't keep up with his mind. He had no.
I think it's just his brain, man. I think he just had brain farts. I don't think he necessarily had bad hands. I think he just overthought things, underthought things. Maybe he just wasn't the super smart player. Maybe there were processing issues. Maybe he was using the same internet service as Chris Boucher, dial-up. Because sometimes you'd be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" You double dribble twice on a play in transition and you had the advantage. What are you doing? But yeah, I also think hand-eye coordination in terms of how you make a pass, right? What happened to RJ today when he threw that turnover to Chris Boucher in the corner was a hand-eye coordination lapse or a court mapping lapse. But do you consider court mapping a part of basketball IQ or athleticism?
Oh, absolutely related. And actually, I think that as far as overall athleticism goes, the vast majority of it is mentally based. Because I mean, you can have all of the physical tools, but if you're paralyzed from the neck down, you're not an athlete, even if your body is built like it should be. Or if you are not able to process simple things, you're not an athlete. You might have athletic potential physically, but you're not an athlete. Because to me, athleticism is all about how you put your physical tools to use, and that's all about the brain. So Precious Achua could jump high. He could run fast because his brain could process jumping high and running fast. But catching a pass, making a pass with the right timing, having the precision, having balance, I guess, sure. But that's again, you don't have to think about being balanced. That's just a natural thing that you have or you don't. It's something that OG didn't have, no matter how hard he tried.
Well, okay, so do you think Nikola Jokic is a good athlete?
I absolutely do. I think Nikola Jokic could clear 90% of athletes in the NBA, right, as far as if you consider all of the categories.
Because obviously he is not the fastest player. Obviously, he gets about 4 inches off the ground, 5 inches off the ground. I think if they measured his vert, it would be less than 14 inches.
Probably.
He is just he has heavy feet at times, but he also is weirdly light-footed at times. I don't know. His hands are very active. So basically Nikola Jokic, the entire coordination is this: balance, hand-eye coordination, strength.
Yeah. Well, he's an above the waist athlete. He's an above the waist athlete. Precious is a below the waist athlete. Think of it that way.
Can we just say below the shoulders? Or are you trying to include the hand?
Sure, below the shoulders. Let's do that. Yeah, that works. Below the shoulders. Oh, Lord. I mean, if your hands are raised above your head, sure. I don't know.
Yeah. John Lem saying Tyrese Maxey was Fred's kryptonite. No, I think a minute's load and hip problems were Fred's kryptonite. But in fairness, I don't think Fred stands a chance in healthy or not to really stop Tyrese Maxey, especially since Tyrese Maxey's advantages were being created by James Harden. So Tyrese was not even creating advantages. He was extending advantages. that James Harden was creating by dissecting the Raptors, and the Raptors' stupid swarming defense was basically going forward to the ball. It was the craziest shit I've ever broken down in my life. You were watching, the people were glazing Tyrese Maxey because he had all these points in the playoffs. For those of y'all who remember, the Raptors in 2021, 2022 went up against the playoffs. 48-win team went against Joel Embiid and the Sixers and lost Scottie Barnes in game 1. And Tyrese Maxey cooked us for the entire series pretty much. And yes, it was a lot on Fred VanVleet until he inevitably, ripped his jersey and caved. But I think a lot of that was just James Harden, man. James Harden dissected the shit out of our defense. Yeah.
No,
James
that's
Harden's
true.
another
That is true.
example of just a really balanced athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, he was much more
Oh, yeah.
bursty and athletic, but so I think positional size and strength wins in the NBA. I think if you can stay on balance and you can get separation and you can get space, I always talk about space like I'm Neil Armstrong. I'm just like, I just want to talk about space, bro. That's all I want to talk about. Is like, do you have clean separation on your shot? I mean, let's imagine, like, I'm a good jump shooter. I could probably hit right now. I'm a little bit rusty. I could probably hit 20 out of 25 threes right now. But if I practice really hard, I'll probably hit about 23 out of 25. I would not get space in the NBA. There's nothing I can do to change that. I mean, a shot's going to get blocked or contested every single time unless I have like 7 feet of separation. I'm not 6'6", but let's change one variable. I'm 7'1". Boom. I'm an NBA player. 7'1", me in the NBA. With my skill, yeah, sure. Not at my age now, but I'm saying 7'1" changes the equation of everything because it's size. Now, as long as I condition myself correctly and I, attend the right programs and do everything right, I'm probably going to be a pro basketball player. Maybe not NBA, but like pro basketball player for sure. Because with that shot, the physics of it become impossible to stop. So for James Harden, who's not 7'1", and for us mere mortals who are not 7'1", there must be something else that creates the advantage, like what Jamal Shed is doing right now with his burst and his intelligence. But at some point, you're going to need strength if you're undersized. And you're going to need positional strength that is going to be in the 98th percentile at your position at getting space. So when I look at a guy like Cade Cunningham struggling versus a guy like Paolo thriving this year, like dropping 50 points, you know how he's dropping 50 points? He's dropping 50 points the same way Scottie Barnes was bullying Giannis Antetokounmpo in the fourth quarter. One shoulder bump, right to the basket. Shoulder bump, basket. Same shit. When Scottie decides to go, Alex Caruso was in a body bag.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think a lot of people maybe look at Scottie and they're just like, if you can do that in that game, why can't you do that every game? Like where is your desire to kill everybody every game? And that's a worthwhile question, man. I think sometimes I wonder that myself too. Is like, where is that? Like, I got to score. And you know what? That's where I think patience is going to pay off with him, because I've seen more and more of that every year. I would be more worried if I was seeing less and less of that. I'm seeing more and more takeover Scottie. I'm seeing early takeover Scottie. I'm seeing splash 4 threes in the first quarter Scottie. And it's like, that's not who he was. So changing his mentality. Can you imagine if Scottie Barnes had RJ Barrett's score buckets, go downhill every time mentality? It'd be like one of the 5 best players in the NBA.
Oh, for sure. And I think you've mentioned it before too. That's about skills confidence. Like, as he gains in confidence in his skill package, like, that'll come. And that's why we're seeing it more and more as he gets more comfortable building up his NBA skills.
Absolutely.
He is being more assertive. So it's the opposite of Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons already had the skills package. And I mean, his handle was so tight just coming in as a rookie. He had the size, he had the strength, he had the defense, and then his mind just, for whatever reason, just shut down. I mean, shell shocked. But Scottie is the opposite. Like, you can tell in those flashes that he does want it. It's just he also wants to make the best possible play in that moment. And if he isn't completely confident in his jump shot or whatever it is, he's going to try and find the play that is a higher percentage play. So it'll come.
No, I think he will eventually figure out, and I'm sure he will, that the better he scores, the better he'll play make. Like, the more he can force defenses and bend defenses as a scorer, because once he, again, in flashes, you see it. when you look at Scottie's makes, there's nobody contesting those shots. They can't contest those shots because when he puts a shoulder down and he turns around and fades away, he's like got like 8 feet of space or 7 feet of space. Like, hold on, I'll actually pull it up and show you what I mean. One sec. Pull this away. I'm going to try to make sure that the music does not. Here we go. Okay. So this was the. Okay. So it's this play. And it's again, there's like hundreds of examples of this play. Where is this? Nope, not that one. It's this one. Okay. So here, against the same team, right? This is Scottie against Denver. How are you supposed to stop this? Like, there's so much space. He's just such a large athlete that once he figures this part of it out, it's pretty much like a lock. He's bigger than Kawhi, and he has bigger strides than Kawhi. The thing that I was talking about, those long strides, with those long legs and those long arms, basically he is a 7-footer who's not 7 feet. Because that's the advantage a 7-footer has, right? Like, Daryl, you're on mute. I don't know if you know that you're on mute, but yeah. So
yeah, I know. I'm just listening to you. I'm in an office and there are other people talking. So
okay, gotcha.
I know I'm on mute. I'm not trying to talk or anything.
Okay,
let me
cool.
just move to a different room.
Cool. Yeah. So I guess what I wanted to say was I just think when it comes together for him, it's lights out for the league because the physics of this are impossible to stop. You cannot stop this. Like nobody is stopping this. One bump, step back, one leg, fade away. Dude, a child could make this shot, right? But a child does not have the legs of a 7-footer and the shoulders of a 7-footer, right? He is one of the weirdest athletes. I promise you. You watch all sports. Find me another person who has this makeup. There just aren't a lot of players who are all legs, all shoulders, all arms. It's the weirdest thing. And by the way, the least relevant part in basketball is your fucking torso. It's not useful.
Yeah, that's
your
true.
head and your torso can be somewhat small. It's your shoulders, it's your arms, it's your legs, it's your, this is how you, so if you see like a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo who's as fast as Giannis or Shaq, well, it is their large strides that allowed them to cover the court in 3 dribbles, right? There's the only 2 guys that I could think of in NBA history that could have done it was until I saw Scottie do it was Giannis and Shaq. But those guys have something in common. They're 7 feet tall. But if you see Scottie standing next to Giannis, hip to hip, they're the exact same. Arm to arm, they're the exact same. It's just Scottie has this stunted sort of mid, waist to shoulder area. And it might seem weird to somebody who doesn't understand athletes or, athletics in general, the why we're even talking about this, but it does change like what he is, because that's what I just described is just an impossible player to guard because you can't put a 7-footer on him and you can't put someone who's 6'6" on him. Like, I don't know how you stop this guy. I literally cannot think of someone saying Chet. No, man. Like
No.
it's not the right matchup. Like, I think the best matchup for him would be like a stronger Herb Jones.
So are you kind of coming around then to playing him more as a small ball 5?
No. But I love the idea that he always could. I love that we retain that possibility, because right now, if you watched us at the end of the game, we had to go small because Jakob fouled out. But hey, like, Scottie can be your jumbo 1 or your stretch 5. That's a really look, I don't watch a lot of baseball. I've actually, to be completely frank, I've attended 2 baseball games my entire life, and I've watched maybe 1 Yankees game on TV in my life. So I am a complete casual. But when the Shohei Ohtani thing blew up, I started researching this guy, and it seems like the whole utility of him is that he's basically 2 players rolled up into one, 2 very good players rolled up into one. Scottie's like 5 really good players rolled up into one, but I don't think people see it that way because we don't isolate offense and defense like they do in baseball.
Exactly.
So that's what I would say. It's like when he figures it out, it's going to be lights out. Like yeah. Anyway,
No, I agree for sure.
any final thoughts before we get out of here at the 2-hour mark?
Final thoughts. No, I think I'm good. Just looking forward to the next game. Absolutely love this iteration of the Raptors. Love it.
Have you ever been so excited about a 2-6 team?
No, man. No. I mean, I haven't always been a Raptors fan. This is probably the most excited I've ever been about any basketball team. I mean, including my own when I played.
Wow. Sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to the post game right after this, but yeah, thanks a lot for calling in,
Cool.
Daryl. Thanks for continuing a string of awesome callers, and I'd like to apologize. Also, there were a couple people who were in the queue, I guess, who may have had to go to sleep. So I apologize to those people, but this was a good conversation. The previous was a good conversation, so just wanted to keep the good conversation going. All right, thanks, Daryl. Enjoy.
Sure. Have a good one.
See ya. Bye. Okay, so I'm going to download the post game live. Or I could literally just run it off the Raptors YouTube channel, which is probably easier, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So, yeah. I mean, where else do you get all of it? You know what I mean? Like that's what I was telling my girlfriend today. I was like, we're the Scottie Barnes of YouTube channels. We're like 5 channels rolled into one. It's like 5 shows rolled into one. Okay, post game is up. Holy shit. Post game is up. There's only 347 views on it. That's nuts. Okay. And there's 13 minutes of it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, to avoid the copyright strike, as always, unfortunately, I am going to, you'll know it's Jakob and Gradey and Darko. You know their voices. So just so y'all can hear it, I'll put it up, and we'll show it, and I am going to, if y'all don't mind, I'm going to put a sort of like graphic over it so that we can hear it, but we won't see it completely.
Didn't really feel like, to me, like much changed. Maybe down the stretch when I was on the bench, they picked up their physicality a little bit, but yeah, like I said, I didn't really feel too much of a difference.
I know you've gone up against Jokic a lot, especially in San Antonio. Going up against him for 35 minutes, first game of a road trip at altitude, what is that like physically?
I mean, it's a lot of work for sure. Like they run about every action through him in some sort of way, so like you're always going to be engaged. But yeah, we're trying to make it tough on the other team as well by playing fast, by running fast break, like tiring them out. So I think it works both ways. It's just about like fighting through those like physically tough games.
You guys had a lot of tough games this past stretch. Even win against the Kings was tough. What are you seeing in terms of, on a progress standpoint, results aside from this team right now?
I mean, we're like every game and it's like every game on its own like has things that we can learn from. For tonight's game, for example, execution down the stretch, how to figure out a good play for us to run, and like how to punish the defense, like how to adjust to their adjustments on the fly when it comes down to the game being on the line at the end of the game. And that's where you can see that we don't have the experience yet, or like in a lot of situations where we haven't been in those situations enough to really know what's going on at all times. And I think we've shown pretty good flashes, but at the same time, we also had a bunch of turnovers down the line. So just improving on that would be great.
You had another double tonight. With Gradey shooting, especially so effectively from outside, what does that do for you?
I mean, it frees me up. It frees everybody else up. Like the defense has to react to him. He's being very active. He's flying off these screens, and he's forcing the defense to trail him over the top. Like forces other guys on the court to help out. Yeah, it's helping me because I'm getting open in the pocket. I'm getting chances for offensive rebounds, stuff like that.
You mentioned him flying off screens. He's also coming around and taking handoffs from you sometimes. How have you noticed him develop as the guy who takes those handoffs and then can sort of read the play?
I think he's always had that skill. Now he's just shooting it lights out. So he always knew how to do that. But now that he's like making those shots like very consistently, the defense has to react and sometimes even overreact to it. And it's helping everybody else. Where it's in some situations the against us, like the defense gets away with going under and stuff like that. When Grady's coming off in these actions, like it's causing a lot of problems for other teams, and yeah, we got to take advantage of that even more.
Which I had a strong game tonight, and how have you seen his confidence kind of start to really show? It seems this last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's great. I feel like he's always been confident. Like ever since he got here, he was just like he was making and taking shots. Definitely. I mean, the confidence part is really just like taking the shots, like not being like, if it doesn't matter if they're going in or not, like continuously taking the shots that you're supposed to take. He's been really good for us on defense. I mean, that's his biggest strength, like his activity there, his versatility there. And yeah, he's filling like kind of like a little bit of everything role on offense for us, where he's doing a lot of good cutting, spacing the corners for threes and stuff like that, being aggressive in the fast break. So yeah, we need more of that.
It seems pretty willing to cut too, even without getting the ball. Like it's kind of an unselfish play sometimes.
Yeah, it's definitely a part of our offense, and he does a really good job of it, trying to replay his how to cut to free up space for his teammates.
Gradey, how would you say their defense, if at all, changed down the stretch? Turnovers for you and RJ mostly became a big issue down the stretch.
I mean, they're definitely pressuring, towards the end, like any team would. But you can see the kind of veteran, guys out there with Jokic and them, and it's good to learn from that. Especially for me as a young guy, seeing how they can stay calm in those settings is good to see. But ultimately, we know what we need to fix.
Is that something you can watch the video of and learn, or do you like pretty much now like sort of know what it felt like and can transfer that in real time? Like how do you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, it's two different perspectives of one of, like you said, kind of already knowing, a couple plays, but it's definitely important that we need to, go back and look at the film and actually see those, and go in depth with what we did and, what I did wrong, what we can build off of, and just, little things like that.
I asked Jakob this, but I'll ask you this as well. You guys have had a lot of tough games, but do you feel like there's any progress being made, results aside?
For sure. No, I think, every game's a new step, and, the guys that are playing, we're just getting used to playing with each other, and that way we can, hit the ground running when we get Scottie and Quick and everyone back. So I feel like, Darko came in and, talked about, he's not big on moral victories. So, I think we take that mentality going into this with, we can't just be happy, that we, made it close. We don't want to ever act like that. But, with the team that we have, we need to know that, we're playing good, but ultimately we need to, learn how to finish out games and stuff like that.
You're in more sort of two-man actions with Yak now than you would be otherwise. What are you learning about him and about those sort of movements and the way you're learning to play with him?
It's great. I love playing, in that two-man kind of pick and roll with Yak and kind of building off that, because, I talk about the attention that, RJ and, Quick when they're playing get when, they're driving down the hole. But I feel like when I'm coming off that, there's a lot of attention where I can just get it to Yak, and he makes great plays, and he's one of the most selfless players I've ever played with. So, it's great when we can, play off each other like that.
Gradey had 4 steals, the big block on Peyton. Do you feel like your defense is kind of starting to catch up with other parts of your game?
Yeah, I think it's just being locked in, and ultimately having the energy and focus that I need, not taking plays off where I'm one step behind. So I feel like the more that I talk on defense, the more I'm getting better at it. But at the same time, it's at the end of it, it's just being locked in.
You talked to me this morning about even how your defense kind of ignites your offense. To Grady's point, you played tremendously on defense. What was working for you on both sides of the court?
I think just getting up and down, not necessarily, they're getting out and running, a lot in transition. So I feel like, when they're kind of ahead of you, it's easy to kind of be like, there's no way I'm getting back in the play. But there are plays I need to go look back at and where I did kind of do that. But at the same time, I took a bad shot where it led to that transition, but I tried, to make up for it and get that block. So that felt good. But at the same time, it's just being locked in, like I said earlier.
Conditioning wise, how's your body feeling when you're playing these heavy minutes?
Feels good. I mean, it's just goes to the advice from, the vets like Garrett, the guys that have been doing this for many years, of how they take care of their bodies and different advices that they give me and what works for them. And that I can kind of add to my routine. And when I get done with games like this, where I can go to recover.
44 minutes or something you guys played were as good as you could have expected. And then, just some unfortunate possessions there with the turnovers. What did you see that kind of led to some of those mistakes you guys were making?
So, obviously, we talked a lot and we addressed the problem of turnovers. First half, we had only 4. I think we did a good job in the third quarter as well. And then in the fourth quarter, I thought that we got a little bit rattled and that we did not handle that pressure of what you need to do on the road to win the game like this and to close the game. I thought that overall we did a lot of good stuff, 37 assists. I thought that for a big part we did a decent job with taking care of the ball, especially first half. After that, at the end, we did not good. They did great job against their physical defense. They're a little bit adjusted, being more aggressive at pick and rolls. We found a couple of rolls there, but we needed to do a better job of finding open men there as well. And overall, we gotta learn how to be aggressive and play physical defense, but at the same time not committing silly fouls and not sending them to the free throw line 38 times. So that disparity of 38 to 18 was a big difference tonight.
With the turnovers, is that just some young players in big positions or having the ball a lot, not familiar with how the physicality can ramp up in those situations as it goes on?
Yes, there were a couple of situations that I thought that we were maybe getting a little bit fouled and there was a little bit more physicality. And I don't want to put it on referees. We need to figure out how to play through that physicality. And when teams do that against us, how we need to be strong with the ball and how we can take advantage of defense like that.
Before he fouled out, went basically minute for minute against Jokic. Jokic got some numbers, but what can you say about what did out there?
I think Jak did a really good job. He gave his best fight against him. Jak was getting a really good job in playing in the pocket, connecting with his teammates, being active on boards as well. I thought that overall that he played a really good game against the best player in the world.
When Jak has games like this, how does that impact a guy like Gradey to also kind of be able to space the floor and find his shots?
I think it's helping everybody. When you have a gravity that shooting of Gradey is bringing, the defense is more focused now. It's opening up more space when you have rollers like Jak catching the ball in the pocket, and then now if they're over helping now that's going to help to get shots for shooters. So all of that is very interconnected, and as I said, 39 assists. Our guys played really hard. They shared the ball. I thought that they played really good game tonight.
RJ Barrett, he missed the game-winning shot as well against Denver last week. Another one today. What do you tell him after moments like these?
I mean, amazing opportunity to be in those situations on the road to get those shots up. That's an invaluable experience, and through this, he's going to grow. Our team is going to grow, and next time he's going to knock it down.
All right. Okay. There are 306 of you here, and it's 2:37 in the morning. Are we sick? Is this a 2-6 team that we are devoting this much time to? Of course, it's a fun team. It is a team that is together in a way that I haven't seen in a very long time in Raptorland. It's a team that is celebrating each other. It may sound like a little bit like kumbaya to you, like why should we care about that, Rob? Because that's the stuff that leads to winning. I do agree with the previous, there was a caller, 95er, who brought up a really interesting point about toughness, grit. Do we have that? Everything in due time. Everything in due time. Last I remember, We the North didn't start with Serge Ibaka, but it sure the hell ended with Serge Ibaka, didn't it? Didn't start with Marc Gasol and Kawhi Leonard, killers like Marc Gasol and Kawhi Leonard, those toughest nails type of competitors. There are, I don't want to use the analogy of like a caterpillar to a butterfly, but you do have to go through the stages. There are no, as Darko says, there's no skip steps. You cannot skip steps here. So I do think that it is important. Also important to realize, I had the wrong banner today. That's something to realize too. Shoot, I had the wrong banner today. There's the right banner. No wonder everything was wrong today. Okay. I had the wrong banner today. Whoops. Okay. You should follow us on Pensar B-Ball on X, because we need to get, now this is something I found out lately. In order to monetize on Twitter/X, you have to get 5 million impressions in 3 months. Good luck. Good luck. It's really difficult to do that. I mean, I think at most we've ever gotten like 150,000 in a day. You got to average 55,000. If you do the math, you have to average 55,000 impressions per day on your posts. It's really difficult to do without a viral post. So we'll see if we can get there, but more followers would help, more retweets would help. So if y'all are already doing it, but if you're not doing it, I would appreciate it. We're going to try to grow across all platforms and support this team. I'm going to be on the panel tomorrow. I believe I'll also be on the panel on Wednesday. So it's going to be 3 days in a row of me on the panel. And I have to be up at 9:30 to prepare for that, because we're going to be talking about the Golden State Warriors. But surely we will get into this game. Swiper and I, he covers the Denver Nuggets. I'm covering the Toronto Raptors. Surely there will be some talk about this game on the panel. It's a cool place for us to stay plugged in with the rest of the league. I do think that, generally speaking, what this community, a lot has been, a lot of conversations today have been talked about, this channel, what is this channel doing? And you guys have been very flowery and very complimentary of this channel. But one of the things that I really wish to do with this channel is to create greater awareness in Raptorland about the NBA. NBA history, sure. NBA analytics, broader strokes, broader than a conversation about who's better long term, Gradey Dick or RJ Barrett. This is a very narrow conversation. We need to go into archetypes. We need to talk about movement shooters throughout history and how they impact spacing. These are the conversations I believe that we can use something that's happening for us to tie into something that's been happening for decades. The concept of a stretch big, how much, a player like that could help us. It was interesting that when the Raptors were drawing up a play for RJ Barrett, I assume, whatever the play was, when they were in that timeout huddle, that there was Kelly Olynyk. I don't know if anyone caught it. He was like kind of stroking a three. Can't wait for Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown and those guys to come back, because I can't wait to see this team healthy. But in the meantime, while this team is not healthy, it has been really cool to see some of these young players thrive. Players like Jonathan Mobo, who is just relentless motor. And even though he got stuffed at the rim once, there's a caller. There's a last minute caller. We'll take a 4-minute call at this point. We're 2 hours and 14 minutes into this. We'd like to top it out at 2 hours and 20 minutes. Ahmed, what's up?
Hey, Rob, how's it going?
Not too bad. How are you?
Doing well, just at work. Was watching the game through the Denver broadcast. They brought up a pretty cool point. They said I just checked it, but we're number 2 now in points in the paint in the NBA.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's a lot of RJ Barrett and Jakob.
Yeah, I was thinking, honestly, this year could be a year for us to make a playoff run. If you look at the East and how like Milwaukee is questionable with Doc Rivers, Philly's health, like even Miami, we're not sure where they are. I mean, if you look at the standings already, if you flip like 2-3 games our way, we would actually be third in the East right now.
Could that be said about 80% of the teams in the East, though? Devil's advocate, pushback.
Yeah, I didn't
know,
watch a lot of other teams' games, but yeah, could be.
It's literally what we were talking about right now. So it's very important. So, Paolo is going to be out for a while. The Magic will struggle immensely to create offense. Is there something going on behind you? The audio
Oh, sorry, I was
like
just walking around.
Yeah, there's like a lot of background noise behind you. There's probably like people screaming, talking, something.
No,
This
is it
time?
still you still hear it?
No, it's quieted down a bit. Yeah, so I'm still hearing a lot of background noise. Yeah. So, anyways, I mean, it's not gonna be a long call, but yeah, I think the same thing could be said for a lot of teams. Indiana has started out slow. New York has started out slow. What happens in December, January when all these teams get healthy and they're in stride and you're in stride, and now where are you? Right now, you're in a dogfight against 7 teams almost every single night in the East. And maybe you are able to beat a New York, maybe you are able to beat a Chicago or a Washington or a Charlotte or an Atlanta who look terrible so far. Maybe you're able to beat these teams, but inevitably in the playoffs, unless you're a high seed, you're probably going to be going up against one of those like teams that are better than you. Cleveland is definitively better than Toronto right now. I think Orlando, when healthy, is probably better than Toronto right now. I think Boston is better than Toronto right now. I think when healthy, Philadelphia should be able to beat Toronto in a playoff series. I think most of these teams. So I don't know if playoffs is a goal. I think development is the goal, and if playoffs end up by virtue of development, then we're cool with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that happening. I mean, if you think about when we get everybody back healthy and how Ochai and them have been facing the best lineups and they're going to be off the bench and they just have more synergy and like they know who they're going to be playing with more constantly. Because I noticed when I was looking at the stats, like our offensive rating, we're like 5th in the East right now, but our defense is like really bad. But if we just
30th.
fix that up, yeah, and defense is 30th. If we fix that up, I think like statistically, we
going
should be
into
up there.
tonight, I believe our offensive rating was actually 11th or 12th.
No, yeah, but 5th in the East. I was looking at all just the East teams. We're 5th in
Okay.
the East. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think we're a top 15 team in the league, but I do think we could easily be a top 8 team in the East. The question then becomes, what do you sacrifice to do that? And I believe the Raptors have answered that question with, we're not willing to sacrifice anything to do that. If we get there, it'll be by process of our young guys got way better and they performed. Jacoby Walter has been the first guy off the bench 2 straight games. He's coming off a shoulder injury. He has not been great. I'm gonna be honest about that. I hype him up. I hype him up a lot. I have nothing but faith and hope, and I know he's gonna be a good player. But he has not been your best player off the bench. You can make a really solid case right now for Jamison Battle or Jonathan Mobo to get that spot as the first guy off the bench and probably get a few more minutes because they're just further along. But Jacoby's reps are important right now. They're super important because he's 19 and he's about to get a G League assignment or probably going to go down to the G League for a bit. And before that happens, he needs to see NBA coverage. He needs to see what he doesn't know so that when he goes down to the G League, he has film that he can analyze. And, so I think that Darko is just doing a great job of keeping the first things first. And I just don't, I don't know. Tonight was a very valuable learning lesson, but we've had a few of these already where it's just like you're right there and then it just slips away. Charlotte, right there, slipped away. Denver slipped away. Sacramento slipped away from them. You needed De'Aaron Fox to shoot 0 for 11 and DeMar DeRozan to have 6 turnovers. A lot of things had to go wrong,
Yeah, and I think like these losses are actually great for this team and the young team. I mean, they can learn from this, and like winning, like you were saying, winning is really hard in the NBA, and if we can like get a grasp of like closing games well, and then we get an easier schedule later on, I think we can really start striving off those wins where maybe we win 20 of 25 and that will give us that push. I mean, I don't really care if we make the playoffs. I like what we're doing. Even if we're losing, I love watching this. Like I'm getting like bench mob 2.0, like that problem of like who do we play because there's so many of like good players that we can put. I love that we have that issue. So I don't know, like playoffs would be nice just to give them that rep and see what we can do. But I see it happening.
Absolutely.
Personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, man, thanks for calling in. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, that's all.
All right. Thanks for
Appreciate
calling
your
in.
time.
And sorry we couldn't get to you earlier. Yeah.
Oh, no, it's all good.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good night.
Have a good night, man. All right. Okay. Takeaways from this game, honestly, is this is a really fun team. It's super connected and they're going in the right direction. You know, again, a lot has been made of Darko's X's and O's. I promise you, when the time comes, he will coach a really good game. But it's really important to realize can't do two things at once. When Jakobi goes to the bench, or when RJ goes to the bench, or when Davion goes to the bench, literally they're having a running discussion about what they just made a mistake on. And you know, he'll point out something to Gradey, and we're talking like while the game is happening, he'll be having a little bit of a running conversation with Gradey about like this, you know, that set right there, this is how you need to attack it. Or same thing with RJ. So he's having these conversations because again, you need to keep the first thing the first thing. You need to keep the main thing the main thing. The priority here is these players get better. They can feel that. That's why they're so happy right now. This is the happiest 2-6 team. 2-6? Yeah. This is the happiest 2-6 team in the league. Teams are usually pouting when they're 2-6. They're not jumping up and down, celebrating each other when they're 2-6. There's usually broken spirits. But what did I say? There was a video that we made earlier in the offseason called The Winning Effect. And we talked about winning doesn't always have to be winning the score. Winning is done every day. Winning is hitting benchmarks, right? So consider this. Let's say you're training for, let's say you're training for a marathon, right? You got to get your cardio up every single day, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to sit there and be miserable every single day because you didn't win the marathon? Marathon hasn't happened yet, right? Or, you know, clearly I've never run a marathon. I'm not an endurance runner. I'm a sprinter. But my point is that if you train for something, which is like to win a championship or, you know, to get a promotion, you can't just sit there every single day and be miserable that you didn't have your promotion. You need to create bite-sized chunks that you can stack every single day. It's called habit stacking, but it's also called like goal stacking. And so you do this shit every day, right? So if your goal is to become more knowledgeable about something, well, when are you going to celebrate? When you win the Nobel Prize? No, you celebrate when you read 2 chapters every single day. And as long as you read those 2 chapters every single day, you've won that day. And so one of the big philosophies with Darko is win the day. So if we execute, we win. It doesn't matter if we win or lose. If we execute, we win. We're without Scottie, without Immanual Quickley, no excuses made. But if we're executing, we win. And if we don't execute and we still win, we lose. We're not playing the right way. So I'm sure that if RJ Barrett and Gradey Dick and Chris Boucher just decided to launch shots from God knows where, and they all just started to miraculously go in, Darko would have a lot to bitch about, even if they won, because he's trying to create like a foundational awareness of how to play basketball in a lot of young men who maybe have never really learned how to play basketball the right way. And you're seeing fruits of it. You're also seeing learning hurdles. You're seeing quarters where there's loads of turnovers, like the fourth quarter, where suddenly you get comfortable playing at a certain rhythm and the other team turns it up and you don't know how to deal with that because you don't have the talent. You really don't. And that's the point. The Raptors are outplaying every team. They have covered the spread 7 games in a row. The only game where they didn't cover the spread, and I'm not trying to talk about gambling or whatever, but I'm trying to give you an idea of where Vegas odd makers see this team or how they see this team versus how this team is performing. They have exceeded. So one way to look at the Toronto Raptors is they're 2-6. Another way to look at them is that they are 7-1. They are 7-1 against Vegas because in the games that Vegas expected you to lose by 10.5, you're losing by 2. Tonight, you were supposed to lose by 10.5. You lost by 2. The previous game, I think you were supposed to lose by 8.5. You won. You won that game. So again, you are beating the spread on average by like 7 points. That's crazy. That's crazy. Find another team that's beating the spread by 7 points. This team is playing its ass off. And Vegas is not stupid. They're looking at your roster. They're looking at who RJ Barrett and Gradey Dick and Jakob are as players. What they're not factoring in, probably will start factoring in, is just how hard they're playing and how much harder they are playing than their competition, which I think is probably just the most important part of this. I saw a team with the best player in the world go up against a team with a guy that most people don't think is a top 50 player in the league. And I saw the team with the guy who's probably on no one's definition of a top 50 player in this league compete and get within one shot. And maybe if one foul that should have been called gets called, this is a win. You know, you take these lumps. I hope no one wakes up tomorrow disappointed that the Raptors lost. I hope the Raptors themselves don't wake up disappointed that they lost. I mean, obviously these are learning things. You have to grow with it. But man, this team is nothing to be ashamed of. They worked their asses off tonight. And in my book, at least, when you work hard, you live with the results. You live with the results. Every year is not a championship. You know, it's amazing that Nikola Jokic is like a cultural icon. Not just for me because I'm Serbian, but because his mentality runs like the antithesis. He's like the antithesis of North American sports athletes. Giannis is like the antithesis of North American sports athletes. They don't think the way that the average North American athlete thinks. They don't think the way the media thinks. You know, that quote that Giannis had after getting bounced, you know, like every year is not going to be your year. Now it's going to be somebody else's year. Some people thought it was defeatist. Some people thought it was weak. I think it's realistic. The truth is, you put yourself in a position to win a championship every single year you've done your job. If you have an injury, if a shot bounces out, that's shit luck. The Toronto Raptors in 2019, when they won the championship, in my opinion, had like a 1 in 8 shot of winning the championship, but it bounced their way. There's a luck involved with this, you know? You needed Kawhi to stay healthy the entire playoffs. You needed Kevin Durant probably to miss time as much as he did. You needed Klay Thompson to probably miss some time. You needed that shot to go in against Philly. This is all luck. But you cannot debate the process. The process was you put yourself in a position to be there. And I honestly believe that this is a great philosophy for life is you need to put yourself in a position to be there. You know? You can't like what are you doing with your life? You know, like that's sort of the way I look at it is like I can't say I didn't get sponsorships for Pen Dance when I haven't even created a sponsorship deck and emailed like 100 people. But the minute I emailed 100 people, it's now irrelevant how many emails I get back, as long as I did my part. And I think that personal accountability element of it, that is what drives championship culture. Because the stoicism, see, Kawhi was not going to cry if he didn't win a championship with the Raptors. I don't think Kyle Lowry is going to cry if they didn't win a championship. I think where you would have real deep regrets if you had cheated it on effort, if you had cheated it on a conversation that you needed to have, or a scheme that you needed to address, or an adjustment that you needed to make. No, you do the right thing. You do the right thing, and you roll with it. You do the right thing by Grady. You do the right thing by RJ. You take the right shots, and you live with the results. And some nights they're going to go in, and you're going to win those games, and some nights they're not. But what we're not going to do as a team is we're not going to turn on each other. We're not going to come in with bad body language. We're not going to come in and root against each other. We're not going to compete for shots with each other. We're not going to miss the open man. We're not going to hunt our own. We're not going to bet on ourselves. We're not going to do the shit that leads to losing. We're going to do winning things every single day. How long? So the question to you, chat, is how long can you do winning things and keep losing? I'll check y'all later. Oak Tree with the comment of the night. Also, I got to respond to these super chats. I'd say Scottie's offensive potential is LeBron type scoring package. I'm not sure I compare those two players, but I see where you're going with that. Tyrese Maxey was Fred's kryptonite. We respond to that. Pinsar and NBA Chef top 2. Cool. Last year I would probably scream at that, but now I'm like, cool. That's awesome. Gradey Dick is our version of Tyler Hero, hands down. we got to the other ones. Thank you all for the very, very generous super chats. I think like this is like the most number of super chats from so many different people that we got today. So thank you all for that. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for this community. And thank you for staying up with us till 3 a.m. If you wake up early and you have something to do, if you have nothing to do tomorrow at 11 a.m., I will be on the panel, Player's Choice. Catch me there. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great night. Libby saying, Penn, you need to start hating on Raptors coaching and players for views. I will never start hating on these players. You coping with Darko failure. Wow. We managed to go an entire live without this nonsense, eh? Have a great one, guys. Bye.